Chapter 2454. Xin Yan felt shy and happy at the same time when she saw the flash of disappointment on Lin Yi's face. To be honest, if Xiaolong wasn't standing there, she wouldn't have left that warm hug. The feeling of that embrace reminded Xin Yan of those cold nights during military training, the days and nights they spent together in the wild training. While she was lost in thought, the sound of a helicopter came from the sky. Lin, he let out a breath of relief. He didn't feel any danger anymore, and the turtle should have retreated, but who knew if it would come back again? Furthermore, since the big turtle was a heaven-ranked spirit beast, could there be other spirit beasts in the valley? There were 2 sky-class spirit beasts in Wulonghout Mountains. Here, I'm here. Xiaolong felt like he had just survived a disaster when he saw the helicopter. He waved his hands, trying to get the people in the helicopter to see him. Lin, he curled his lips and looked at Xiaolong. With his voice, the people in the helicopter couldn't hear him at all. As for him, even if he didn't wave, the people in the helicopter would be able to see him. The helicopter got closer and closer, and a ladder was pulled down from the helicopter. It was placed vertically at the bottom of the valley. Right Coiling Tiger's voice came from the loudspeaker. "Big Bro Kong, get on the helicopter." Xiaolong was very excited. He subconsciously wanted to grab the ladder and climb up, but Lin, he grabbed him back. "Wait a bit. Let Xin Yan go first, you go last." Although Lin, he was a practitioner, this valley wasn't something that could be climbed easily. Putting aside the fact that the cliffs were covered in snow and ice, even in the summer, there weren't any footholds. Climbing up was an extremely difficult task. Lin, he didn't have Rock Candy's amazing Qigong, so he couldn't fly up. So Lin, he decided to let Xiaolong go last. Otherwise, this kid would just take a helicopter and escape. That would be a little fucked up. Oh, Xiaolong was a little disappointed, but he understood what Lin he was worried about. He really didn't want to leave Lin behind. After all, Lin he had saved his life once, or more accurately, twice. It was just that the first time Lin he saved his life was for self-preservation. As a result, Xiaolong couldn't leave Lin he behind no matter how much he wanted to. Besides, if he and you Coiling Tiger went back without Lin Yi, how could he explain a boss by? Xin Yan was a little scared as she looked at the wobbly ladder. She didn't dare go up on her own, but the ladder could only fit one person at a time. She couldn't let Lin Yi hold her up. Of course, she could also let Lin Yi protect her under her body, but she had to let Lin Yi face her buttocks. It would only make Xin Yan more embarrassed. Gritting her teeth, Xin Yan grabbed the ladder and climbed up. She was a strong girl. She was scared, but she held on for a while. Lin, he wasn't worried. He could catch Xin Yan even if she fell. Lin, he was confident that he could catch Xin Yan even if she fell from the top of the mountain, let alone the height of the helicopter. Finally, Xin Yan reached the helicopter safely. Lin, he let out a sigh of relief. He quickly stepped on the ladder and got on the helicopter. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was the last to get on the plane. His face was pale, and he nodded with lingering fear when he saw Tiger right. "Brother Yu, there's a big water monster in the valley. It scared me." "Big water monster? What's that?" You Coiling Tiger paused. "Sky-class spirit beast. We almost died," Lin, he said faintly. "Is a heaven-ranked spirit beast?" Right Coiling Tiger was startled, and a look of horror flashed across his face. This spirit beast didn't have anything to do with Lin Yi. In fact, it was an enemy. Lin Yi didn't need to keep a secret. As for whether or not the hidden house you would dare to provoke this spirit beast, it wasn't within Lin Yi's consideration. "If House Yu has the guts, you can go and catch it," Lin Yi said. You Coiling Tiger's expression was uglier than crying. "Sky-class spirit beast? Forget it. Who dares to provoke it? Besides, there's no use in catching it. It can't protect House Yu." "Oh, Sky-class spirit beasts are very precious. House Yu doesn't need it?" Lin, he asked calmly. "Even if it's precious, you have to be alive to catch it." You Coiling Tiger shrugged and didn't say anything else. However, Lin, he felt that Coiling Tiger was implying something. Golden and Mystic-class spirit beasts were very popular, but Coiling Tiger didn't care about Sky-class spirit beasts at all. He was very indifferent, which made Lin he feel strange. Of course, what Right Coiling Tiger said might be true. It was very difficult for a heaven-ranked spirit beast to recognize a master. Even if one used a special contract to turn it into a puppet spirit beast, it would still be impossible. Comparatively speaking, it was easier to capture yellow rank and profound rank spirit beasts. What Lynn didn't know was that sky-class spirit beasts were rare in the common world, but the hidden house of you was one of the few who knew about them. It wasn't hard for them to find sky-class spirit beasts. If it really was as he said, one would need to be alive to catch one. The helicopter flew directly back to the resort and stopped in the open space. Lin Yi, Xinyan, Xiaolong, and Coiling Tiger got off the helicopter. Coiling Tiger gave the pilot a few instructions, and the helicopter slowly left the resort and flew back to the hidden house you. Xiaolong wasn't in a very good mood. None of the plans he'd come up with were executed perfectly. Not only that, but he'd also gotten himself injured all over. To him and Tiger Right, this was a classic case of losing a wife and a soldier. His fiancée was hugged by Lin Yi, and one of House Yu's underlings was dead, and one was injured. This proverb was tailor-made for the two of them. The ancients were wise indeed. They could even predict the future, Xiaolong thought gloomily. Entering the resort with Wang Xinyan, Boss Spy was already anxiously waiting in the lobby of the resort. Seeing that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan had returned safely, his furrowed brows relaxed. He had a good impression of Lin Yi and had the intention of training him to be his successor. However, Lin Yi seemed to have some obstacles in the field of alchemy, which made Boss Spy hesitate. Boss Spy was best at refining elixirs, and his medical skills were only auxiliary. It could even be said that he wasn't as good as Lin Yi, so if Lin Yi only learned medicine, he wouldn't need to learn it. It didn't matter if Lin Yi learned it or not, but refining elixirs was very special. Boss Spy felt that Lin Yi's situation was very special, and he could only find a solution slowly. No matter what, Boss Spy didn't want anything to happen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, how are you? Are you all right? Boss Spy asked, but he didn't look at Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 2455. Even though he was miserable, Boss Spy automatically ignored him and turned to Wang Xinyan. Wang Xinyan, are you all right? I'm fine, Mr. Bai. Thank you for the trouble, Lin Yi said with a smile. I'm fine as well. Wang Xinyan nodded. That's good. I've already arranged the rooms. Lin Yi, you, and Bai Weituo will share a room. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing will share a room. This is your room card. Boss Spy handed the room card to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. Xiaolong knew that what he did today made Boss Spy very angry. Although he didn't say it out loud, he still went upstairs with Panhu. He shared a room with Panhu, so he didn't need Boss Spy to give him the room card. Let's go back first. We'll have dinner later. There are still some activities scheduled in the evening. Take this opportunity to rest, Boss Spy said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. And okay. Lin Yi nodded and took the elevator with Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi, don't make things too awkward with Xiaolong. In the elevator, Wang Xinyan was silent for a long time before she spoke. Oh, Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't quite understand why Wang Xinyan would suddenly say something like this. But since she said it like this, she must have her concerns. What confused Lin Yi was that Wang Xinyan clearly didn't like Xiaolong. Even after this incident, her gaze towards Xiaolong was filled with disgust. Why would she plead for Xiaolong now? However, Lin Yi wasn't stupid. He thought about it again. If Wang Xinyan wasn't pleading for Xiaolong, then she must be thinking from his perspective. In other words, Wang Xinyan didn't want him to make things too awkward with Xiaolong out of consideration for him. But why? Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner. His backing was only the hidden house you. Today, Lin Yi wasn't even afraid of beating up two masters from the hidden house you. Why would he be afraid of offending the hidden house you? Chapter 2456. Why did you turn around right after I put on my clothes? Xinyan felt that it was too much of coincidence. Lin Yi scratched his head. He didn't know how to explain it. Lin Yi bro didn't peek at Xi and Yin sis from the mirror. Han Jingjing said, without raising her head as she fiddled with the tablet in her hand. Lin Yi wanted to strangle Han Jingjing. She didn't even raise her head. How did she find out? Only then did Xinyan notice that there was a mirror behind Lin Yi. That meant that Lin Yi could still see her in the mirror. She glared at Lin Yi. What's going on? Xin Yan's face twitched as she stared at Lin. What the hell? Lin Yi coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. Bai Wei Tuo and he Mei Wei took the room. I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I came. Oh, Xin Yan said with an oh as she sat on the bed, feeling a little awkward as well. Han Jingjing just had to sit there and continue drawing after that, leaving the two of them with nothing to talk about at all. Are you training? Xin Yan asked, breaking the awkwardness. Sure. Lin Yi nodded and sat on the bed. Xin Yan sat beside Lin Yi quietly. After some thought, she pulled down the jacket she just put on, revealing the thermal underwear underneath. Lin Yi could see her perfect body, and Xin Yan didn't have anything to be embarrassed about. He'd already seen her naked, so what was there to be afraid of now? Lin Yi closed his eyes and started channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, and Xin Yan cooperated fully. She sat by Lin Yi's side, not moving an inch. The two of them had gotten to this point, and things were getting out of Wang Xinyan's control. The only thing she could do was to help Lin Yi train as soon as possible. She wanted Lin Yi to reach a whole new level, and as long as they weren't afraid of the Sky Elixir sect, she and Lin Yi could be together. Xin Yan, can I hug you? Lin Yi realized that he was a little distracted today. He kept getting distracted when he was training, and he smelled Wang Xinyan's fragrance. He wanted to take the next step. Xin Yan froze. She hadn't expected Lin Yi to make such an unreasonable request, but Xin Yan couldn't very well say no. She glanced at the nonchalant Han Jingjing not too far away. Then, he snorted softly with a nasal voice. It was unknown whether he agreed or disagreed. Lin Yi smiled when he heard Xin Yan's whimper. He reached out and pulled Xin Yan into his embrace. Xin Yan's body trembled visibly. Her breathing became a little rapid. Although Lin Yi had hugged her during the military training before, that was when he was asleep and it was very cold in the middle of the night. Lin Yi seemed to be doing it on purpose. Although Lin Yi was doing it for cultivation, in the end, was his lust more important or his cultivation more important? Wang Xinyan didn't know. Lin Yi could feel Xin Yan's body stiffening, and he didn't want to push his luck. He didn't do anything inappropriate after hugging Xin Yan, and started to train like he was supposed to. Lin Yi's attitude made Xin Yan sigh in relief and happy. It seemed that Lin Yi was really training, and he wasn't blinded by lust and trying to take advantage of her. Xin Yan was quite happy that Lin Yi was motivated to train. After all, the sooner Lin Yi reached the top of the Sky Elixir sect, the sooner the window paper between the two of them would be broken. Otherwise, Xin Yan wouldn't have agreed to anything before that. She didn't want Xiaolong to contact Kong Ming and make a move on Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was closer to him now, Xiaolong had personally promised not to pursue the matter. Of course, he had no choice but to ask for help from Lin Yi, but Xiaolong wouldn't go back on his word so soon. In the blink of an eye, it was dinner time. Boss Bai asked the service desk to call every room to inform the students to go to the dining hall for dinner. The call was picked up by Han Jingjing. After answering the phone, she put down the tablet and said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi bro, Xinyan sis, the service desk is calling for dinner. Oh, okay. Lin Yi came back to reality from his training and let go of Xinyan. Xinyan was a little nervous and shy before, but Lin Yi didn't do anything to embarrass her, so she relaxed. It was a little comfortable being hugged by Lin Yi, and she almost fell asleep in the end. She opened her eyes in a daze and sat up. Let's go eat then. The three of them walked out of the room, and they saw Bai Wei Tuo and He Mei Wei walking out of the room. He Mei Wei's face was still red, and they didn't know what the two were doing in the room. Bai Wei Tuo saw Lin Yi and quickly ran over. Lin Yi bro, kid, you and Mei Wei are together. Lin Yi looked at Bai Wei Tuo's excited face and asked in a low voice. Ha, not yet, but I kissed her, Bai Wei Tuo said excitedly. I didn't think that there would be that kind of show on the cable TV in this resort. Mei Wei and I couldn't help ourselves after watching it for a while, but Mei Wei didn't let me go further. Ha. Lin Yi patted Bai Wei Tuo's shoulder with a smile. Teacher Bai agreed to the two of you? Grandpa didn't disapprove of it. I'll just watch it, Bai Wei Tuo said. Lin Yi didn't say anything. Himei gave Lin Yi the feeling that she was very smart. Bai Weituo wasn't stupid, but he was a bit more down-to-earth. He didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse for him to be with Himei. Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger also came out, but Xiaolong was dressed up. Not only did he take a shower, his hair was combed neatly, and he changed into a new set of leather clothes. What surprised Lin Yi was that the injuries on his face were all healed. But Lin Yi was only slightly surprised. With a pill bottle like Right Coiling Tiger beside him, getting some quick healing pills wasn't a problem. One level 2 pill was enough to completely heal all the injuries on Xiaolong's body. Lin Yi, thank you so much for what you did in the valley. Xiaolong walked over and took the initiative to say to Lin Yi. Question mark. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. He wanted to say that Xiaolong was stupid, but he didn't say it. In fact, Xiaolong came to show goodwill to Lin Yi because he had no other choice. After he went back and met with Right Coiling Tiger, he confirmed that the 2 cultivator robbers were masters sent by the Hidden House U. One was an Earth-class late-phase peak, and the other was a Sky-class early phase. Of the 2, one was dead and one was injured. Lin Yi's strength was quite amazing. To be continued. Chapter 2457. Xiaolong didn't want to die. His brother might be the last disciple of the Sky Elixir Sect's 5th elder, but he wasn't an elder yet. If he wanted Kong Ming to help him, he'd have to wait until Kong Ming finished his apprenticeship. Offending Lin Yi now wasn't a good thing. As a result, Xiaolong expressed his gratitude to Lin Yi, so that Lin Yi wouldn't come looking for trouble when he got back. Does your word count in the valley? Lin Yi asked faintly. Valley? What did I say? As expected, Xiaolong started acting like he didn't know what to do. Being friendly was one thing, but it was a matter of principle. There was no one else in the valley, and it was fine if he said it, but he couldn't say it in front of you Coiling Tiger, lest he embarrass House Kong. Nothing. Lin Yi had guessed that Xiaolong would go back on his word, but he didn't care. Even if Xin Yan and Xiaolong were to talk about marriage, Lin Yi wouldn't put him in his eyes. Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid of second or third time if he dared to mess with House Kong once. Xin Yan heard that Xiaolong was going back on his word. Even if it was within her expectations, she still wasn't happy. Xiaolong didn't keep his word. Dinner was eaten in the restaurant of the resort building. There were many small buildings and villas in the resort. People from different majors and classes were basically living separately, so the restaurant didn't seem crowded. A few tables of food were prepared for the students majoring in medicine. After dinner, it was time for the resort's entertainment. The reason why this resort was famous wasn't because of the ski resort, but because there was a deserted village halfway up the mountain. Exploring the deserted village at night was one of the most popular activities of the resort. No one knew how many years this desolate village had existed. There were no signs of human habitation, and the houses in the village were built in an ancient style. However, most of them were made of stone, so they had not been damaged over the years. There was a huge memorial arch at the entrance of the village. After many years of wind and rain, its color had already faded. Under the moonlight, it looked especially eerie and terrifying. Of course, if one were to say that these barren buildings were terrifying, the most attractive part was that there were ghosts in this deserted village. As for whether it was a real ghost or just a gimmick for the resort to attract tourists, no one knew. Some of the tourists said that they really saw something unclean when they were in the exploration vehicle at night, while others said that it was just a scary atmosphere that caused them psychological pressure. But no matter what, this place was already famous. Moreover, during the night visit, visitors had to take the exploration vehicle provided by the hotel. Visitors were strictly forbidden from trespassing into the deserted village, and visitors were not allowed to get off the vehicle and leave during the tour. These might be tricks used by the resort to scare tourists to make money. After all, riding in the expedition car required a fee. If tourists drove or walked to the deserted village to explore, how could the resort make money? This kind of relatively scary entertainment activity. Normally, Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. It's just that these past few years, although the rumors about the barren village were scary, Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. However, none of the tourists who took the exploration vehicles to explore had any problems. They all returned safely. Therefore, Boss Bai had basically guessed that it was probably a trick for the resort to make money and attract tourists. There were actually no ghosts in the desolate villages. The exploration car was a small 9-seater minibus, and other than the driver and co-driver, there were only 7 people in the car. Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xin Yan, Xiaolong, Tiger Right, and their 2 underlings were all in the same car. Naturally, Lin didn't want to go with them, but Tiger Right and Xiaolong shamelessly got in the car. Lin, he couldn't just kick them off, could he? He had no choice but to let them get in the car. But what Lin didn't know was that Xiaolong and Tiger Right getting in the car had caused him quite a bit of trouble. The driver of the exploration car received a call from Days Su before he got in the car. The driver of the exploration car naturally knew what kind of status Days Su had. He was just an employee, and Days Su could be said to be half the owner of the resort. How could he not listen to Days Su? Days bro, is there anything I can do for you? The driver asked carefully, not knowing why Days Su was calling him at this time. I have a grudge against the passengers in your car. Days Su had already seen Xiaolong and Tiger Right get in the car, so he asked for the driver's phone number and called him. The driver froze after hearing Days Su's words. Lower your voice, don't talk. Just listen to me and do as I say. Days Su lowered his voice and ordered the driver. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. The driver didn't dare to go against Days Su's words. He quickly calmed himself down and pretended to be nonchalant. Okay, later, when you bring the people in the car to the abandoned village, bring them to a secluded place and find an excuse that the car broke down. Then you get out, come back, and leave them there. Days Su said. That. The driver froze. This wasn't a good idea, was it? If he left these people in the abandoned village, and in a secluded place at that, how would he explain it to them? As the driver of the exploration car, he had driven between the resort and the abandoned village for many years. He knew very well that there were ghosts in the abandoned village. It wasn't a rumor, but a real ghost. It was just that the ghost had no intention of hurting people, but it was also under the condition that the resort did not disturb the ghost. The route that their car took was carefully chosen to avoid touching the ghost as much as possible. This was also the reason why they had been peaceful all these years. The unclean things that the tourists saw weren't actually hallucinations or psychological effects. In fact, sometimes they could see the existence of a ghost somewhere along the route. Did you hear me talking to you? You don't want your job anymore, do you? Days Su saw that the driver wasn't talking and immediately got angry. Just tell me if you want it or not. If you don't want it, I'll find someone else. Okay. The exploration car driver had no choice but to bite the bullet and agree. He had no choice but to agree. The job of the exploration car driver in the resort was to go out every night. It was easy and the salary was high. He didn't want to lose this job, but seeing a group of innocent tourists being left in the abandoned village and possibly scared out of their wits, the driver couldn't help but sigh. No matter what, he couldn't go against Days Su. Chapter 2458. After smoking a cigarette, the driver got in the car. He couldn't find a reason for the car to break down, so he refueled the car as usual. The driver didn't refuel the car, leaving only enough gas for a one-way trip. There was basically no gas left once they reached the abandoned village. Abandoned village? Haunted? Lenny looked at the brochure in his hand, thinking that this was most likely the resort's way of attracting tourists. Lenny couldn't say that he didn't believe in ghosts, but at least he hadn't seen one yet. Even when he was exploring the tomb, he didn't see any so-called ghosts. Of course, it wasn't as if these things didn't exist. Lenny had read in some ancient texts that when a practitioner trained to an unimaginable level, they'd be able to cultivate a primordial spirit. The primordial spirit could leave the body, and even after the physical body died, it could still survive. However, this was different from ghosts. This was a great power of the practitioner, and there was a fundamental difference from ordinary ghosts. The car started slowly. Lin Yi's car, whether it was intentional or not, became the last car in the entire team. After refueling, it followed the team in front of it down the hill. The mountain road was very rugged. It wasn't a regular mountain road, but the resort's own training path. It wasn't open to the public, so there weren't even any street lights. One could only rely on the car's searchlight to see the road clearly. As for the two sides of the road, there was dense forest. If it was a coward, it would be especially creepy. Lin, he wasn't afraid of this kind of mountain night at all. When he trained at West Star Mountain, it was scarier than this, and Woolen Mountain Range wasn't any better, so Lin, he didn't care. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, didn't seem to care about what was going on around herself. She'd been playing with her tablet the whole time, not even bothering to look out the window. Lin, he was speechless. This girl was way too carefree. Xinyan, on the other hand, was obviously nervous. She didn't look out the window. Unlike Han Jingjing didn't have time to look. She didn't think that the ghosts outside the window were as fun as refining pills. Xinyan, on the other hand, was a little scared. What ghosts? It's just a rumor, a way for the hotel to make money. Xiaolong couldn't help but speak up after seeing Xinyan's fear. What the hell? We're medical students. How can we be afraid of ghosts? It was just a trick to trick children. I dare to laugh at ghosts in front of their faces in the cemetery. Xinyan frowned at Xiaolong's words. Even if it was the hotel's way of making money, there was no need to say in the car. Was there? There was a chauffeur in the car. How could he be happy when he heard that? As expected, the driver of the exploration car felt sorry for the people in the car, but after hearing Xiaolong's arrogant words, he felt a bit guilty. That trace of guilt in his heart suddenly vanished. Isn't this a scam? Didn't he not believe it? I'll let you guys have a look. You can't say that there is no soul, Lin Yi said. You can't say that everything that can't be explained by science isn't science. It can't be explained now, but it might be explained in the future. Didn't you think you saw a ghost when you saw a car a few hundred years ago? What Lin Yi didn't say was that cultivation and pill-making were impossible in the eyes of normal people. It was just that there was a chauffeur in the car, so he didn't make it that clear. Hey, Lin Yi, what do you mean by that? Xiaolong curled his lips. I think you're scared. If you're scared, get off the car now. We're going to the abandoned village. You don't have to go. Lin Yi didn't bother with Xiaolong anymore. He turned his head and ignored him. Xiaolong thought that he was better than Lin Yi in terms of theoretical knowledge. He was overjoyed, thinking that he would regain his heroic image in Xinyan's heart. He was beaten up by the robbers and Su Longzi, and then bullied by the turtle. Why would he be afraid of ghosts? From Xiaolong's point of view, he'd act bolder and more fearless, and Xinyan would think that he wasn't that useless after all. The car slowly drove into the abandoned village. The huge arch at the entrance shone with a sad light under the moonlight, and Xinyan subconsciously shrunk back. Xiaolong saw this and couldn't help but say, "It's just a broken arch. It looks like a soccer goal in the daytime. It's not that big of a deal." But after entering the village, the car Lin Yi was in changed its direction, going in a different direction from the rest of the cars. It went into a small road at the fork in the village. Why isn't it going the same way as the cars in front? Lin Yi noticed the problem and asked, "Oh, every car has its own itinerary. There'd be no point in exploring if they were all gathered together, and we'd lose the fun of exploring the village." The driver had already thought of an excuse beforehand, and so he explained it when Lin Yi asked, "Is that so?" Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi didn't see the car in front, but at least the two cars in front were going the same route, one in front and one behind. They didn't split up, so Lin Yi doubted the chauffeur's words. "I say, Lin Yi, are you scared? Just say it if you're scared. There's no need to find excuses." Xiaolong heard Lin Yi's words and felt that Lin Yi was getting more and more scared. Lin Yi was an Earth class mid-phase peak, and he didn't even flinch when facing the robbers and the turtle. But that didn't mean he didn't have a weakness. Fear of ghosts had nothing to do with strength level. Many people would maintain a respectful heart in front of the unknown. If Lin Yi was especially sensitive to things like ghosts, it was reasonable for him to be afraid. Lin Yi wanted to ask a few more questions, but since Xiaolong had already said so, Lin Yi didn't bother. They were within the range of the resort, so there shouldn't be any big problems. He just felt that there was something wrong with the route the car was taking, so he asked. But then again, even if there was a problem with the route, Lin Yi didn't care. So what if there was a problem? The chauffeur wanted to rob them? That was simply courting death. After the car entered the fork, the road became a lot more bumpy. The car may have been modified, but it was still difficult to walk on this kind of road. Why is this road so hard? Lin, he was even more confused. If every car had a different route, then Lin, he could force himself to believe it. But to say that this road was this hard, Lin, he didn't believe it. To be continued. Chapter 2459. There would be an expedition car almost every night. Even if there was only one car on this road, it would be a smooth road every day. It would not be as bumpy as it was now. The only explanation was that this road was not used often. It was a last-minute decision by the driver of the car. However, what was the purpose of him doing this? Did he want to take them to a deserted place to rob them? However, as the driver of the resort, if it was a robbery, the police should be able to solve the case easily. Lenny also believed that he would not be so stupid. He would go out to explore at night with a lot of money. If there were other purposes, he could not figure it out. It was the first time they came to this resort, and it was the first time they participated in this deserted village adventure. They did not know the driver in front of them at all. What purpose could he have? After passing through this part of the road ahead was much easier to walk. However, although the road here was easier to walk than before, he could see at a glance from the traces of the soil on the ground that cars usually did not travel here at all. This was a dirt road with no wheel marks on it. It could be said that this should be a road that exploration cars usually did not travel on. Why did they travel this way today? The searchlights on both sides of the exploration car began to work. This allowed the passengers in the car to clearly see the scene outside the car window. This was an extremely gloomy village. There were dilapidated houses, dry ancient wells, some buildings without signs, and tomb-like hills. Everything looked particularly gloomy and terrifying. Even the driver of the exploration car could not help but shiver at this moment. He drove the car here according to Su Lung's instructions. However, he had not been on this road for 4 or 5 years. The last time he came was during the day. Even though he had a map in his hand, he was a little afraid to get out of the car and run back alone. The environment here was too scary. Suddenly, the car was extinguished. The driver of the exploration car glanced at the fuel gauge and found that the car had no more fuel. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry. The car seems to have some problems. The fire has been extinguished. Let's take a look around here first. I'll see if I can repair the car first. If I can't, I'll call for help." The car is broken? He was even more suspicious. The car had been perfectly fine before, so how could it have broken down? "Yeah, I'm sorry," the exploration car driver replied nervously. In his eyes, he was the most meticulous person in the world. Previously, he had already discovered many flaws. At this time, he was probably starting to suspect something. But now that it had come to this, he had no other choice. He could only bite the bullet and continue carrying out Su's plan. You can't be that timid, right? Since the car is broken, let him fix it first. Let's get out of the car to take a look and explore. Xiaolong was eager to show off his bravery. As far as he was concerned, deserted villages and ghosts were all fake. It's written in the tourist brochure of the deserted village. Tourists are not allowed to get off the bus without permission to avoid accidents, he said calmly. He was not afraid, but he felt that what happened today was strange. "Xinyan, did you see that? How cowardly were some people. Such a person. He can't be a boyfriend," Xiaolong said to Xinyan. He didn't mention a name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. What's the use of being a practitioner? Not everything can be solved with fists. If you don't even dare to walk in the dark, you won't be able to leave your house in the future, right? It's fine if you guys get off. Just don't go too far. It's not convenient for me to repair the car with you guys in the car, the driver said cooperatively. Look, the driver already said that. Why are you still in the way? Xiaolong asked. All right then, let's get off and take a look. He was even more suspicious of the driver's goal. Why couldn't he repair the car when the tourists were in the car? The tourist brochure clearly stated that tourists weren't allowed to get off the bus halfway, but the driver was chasing them away. He wanted to see what the driver was up to. After a moment of silence, he smiled. All right, let's get off and take a look. Xiaolong looked at the dangerous look on Lin Yi's face. Keep acting, keep acting. Let's see if you'll wet your pants when we get off the bus and explore the deserted village. Han Jingjing put away her tablet with a nonchalant expression and stood up to get off the bus. Xin Yan didn't want to, but there was nothing she could do about it. She felt a lot more at ease with Lin Yi by her side. As for what Tiger Right said about Lin Yi being afraid of ghosts and not daring to get out of the car, Xin Yan naturally didn't believe it. It was complete nonsense to her. Lin Yi wasn't even afraid of robbers and sky-class turtles. Why would he be afraid of ghosts? A gust of cold wind blew past as they got off the bus. Xin Yan couldn't help but shiver. She moved closer to Lin Yi, but didn't dare get too close. She didn't want to go too far in front of Xiaolong. Seeing how Xiaolong had been targeting Lin, Xin Yan knew that Xiaolong hadn't given up on her yet. What he said at the bottom of the valley was probably just empty words. Hey, it's so exciting here. Let's go over there and take a look. Xiaolong pointed at a shady place not far away. We got nothing to do anyway. Let's see if there are any ghosts. We're just nearby. It's not good to go too far, is it? Xin Yan was a bit hesitated. Girls had an instinctive fear of dark places like this. Of course, Han Jingjing wasn't on the same level as her. Han Jingjing wasn't afraid at all. She looked around the place. Lin Yi didn't move, but Lin Yi's divine sense was focused on the car. Lin Yi felt that there was something wrong with the driver, so Lin Yi paid attention to him after he got off the bus. Brother Lung, it's me. The driver of the exploration car carefully dialed Lung Su's number to report the latest situation. Oh, did you do what I told you? Lung Su asked. I did, Lung Bro. I brought them to a secluded place, but it's too scary here. I don't dare go back alone. The driver said carefully. Drive back when they get off. Can't you just leave them there? Lung Su said. To be continued. Chapter 2460. But the car's out of gas. I didn't fill it up. The driver said carefully. Idiot. Then wait in the car until the sun rises. Naturally, Su wouldn't send a car to pick him up at this time. He wouldn't be able to achieve his goal of scaring Xiaolong and the others. As for whether the driver would be scared out of his wits, that wasn't Su's concern. Hello. Hello. Bro Days? The driver looked at the phone and sat down in the driver's seat, depressed. He lit a cigarette and tried not to look out of the window. This area was the most haunted area, and it was also listed as a key danger zone on the resort's map. Drivers and tourists were strictly prohibited from coming to this area. Not to mention at night, even during the day, it was best not to come. The driver of the exploration car knew that there were unclean things nearby, so he naturally did not dare to look around casually. Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, and he had the ability to eavesdrop on the driver's phone. Naturally, he could hear everything clearly in this quiet night. Lin Yi's lips curled into a cold smirk. So the driver was under Rash Su's orders, abandoning them in the wilderness. It seemed like this disaster was caused by Xiaolong and Tiger Right, and he, Xin Yan, and Han Jingjing were just suffering along with them. It was obvious that Su wanted to use this method to get revenge on Xiaolong and Tiger Right. But after understanding this, Lin Yi was relieved. Su's goal was nothing more than to scare Xiaolong and Tiger Right, but one of them was a doctor and the other was a refiner. Unless there really was a ghost here, it wouldn't be able to scare them. Since Xiaolong wants to go, then let's go. It's pretty cold here, and we'll freeze if we don't exercise, Lin Yi said to Xin Yan. Lin Yi felt that something was wrong after he said that, because it didn't seem to come from Lin Yi's own will. It was as if someone had instigated Lin Yi. Or perhaps there was a voice calling Lin Yi, telling him to come quickly to the dark place in front. Lin Yi's willpower was very strong and firm. In a short moment of absent-mindedness, he discovered the problem. However, Lin Yi wasn't sure what the problem was, just like that sudden sentence just now. Was he being blinded by greed? Or was he just curious himself? Let's go take a look then. Xin Yan agreed, much to Lin Yi's surprise. She'd been very timid before, but now she seemed to be very curious. Ha! Lin Yi, look, even Xin Yan is braver than you, Xiaolong said. Lin Yi was confused and didn't have the mood to argue with Xiaolong. He was about to say something when he saw Xin Yan following Xiaolong, Tiger Right, yellow hair, and purple hair into the shadows of the village. Big bro Lin, don't you think something's wrong here? Something doesn't feel right here. Han Jingjing turned around and looked at Lin Yi with a serious gaze. Something's wrong? Lin Yi glanced at Han Jingjing. What's wrong? Jing can't describe it, but there seems to be something strange about this place. Jing feels that although this place is dark and eerie, there seems to be an invisible magic that makes people want to investigate it. Han Jing said with a frown as she looked at the pitch-black darkness not far away. Then do you want to go investigate? Lin Yi's heart tightened. Han Jingjing had the same feeling? Did Xinyan and the others have the same feeling? I want to, but I'll listen to Big Bro Lin Yi, Han Jingjing said. Lin Yi looked at Han Jingjing and took a deep breath. He had this feeling before, but it was because of his strong willpower that he woke up. But Han Jingjing's mind was terrifyingly calm. She was able to notice something was wrong, even in a situation like this. This made Lin Yi more and more confused about Han Jingjing's background. This girl was a genius with an abnormally high IQ. Her thoughts were also abnormally sharp, and she was extremely calm. Seeing Xinyan leave with Xiaolong and Tiger Right, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This didn't fit Xinyan's personality. She didn't like being too close to Xiaolong and Tiger Right, but now she didn't wait for him and Han Jingjing, instead following them into the shadows of the barren village. This didn't make sense. Xinyan, wait. It would have been fine if Han Jingjing hadn't said anything, but she had the same feeling. He was pretty sure that there was something wrong with this place. He subconsciously called out to Xinyan. It's dangerous here, don't go far. Lin Yi's voice made Xinyan stop at her tracks. She turned around, confused, and her heart skipped a beat. Why did she follow Xiaolong and the others here? She wanted to turn back, but Xiaolong started to talk. Lin Yi, if you're scared, just say it. If you don't go, don't delay others from going. Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi, mocking him. Xinyan wanted to turn back after hearing Lin Yi's words, but she didn't know why. But after hearing Xiaolong's words, she turned around and walked forward. It was as if there was some kind of magic in front of her, making her lose her mind again. Let's go take a look, be careful. Lin Yi hesitated but still followed. Lin Yi didn't know if it was because of Xinyan or if it was because of the demon in his heart. Oh, okay. Han Jingjing nodded and followed Lin Yi. Come on. Lin Yi couldn't shake the feeling that there was a magical voice calling out to him, but he couldn't hear anything when he tried to listen carefully. All of this seemed so strange, and the dark place in the distance seemed even more ghastly and terrifying. This feeling made Lin Yi feel uncomfortable. There was something strange about this place. A haunted village, in theory, should be fake. It was a way for the resort to attract tourists, but at this moment, Lin Yi felt that the rumors weren't just groundless. The few of them walked further and further away. That shadowy place that didn't seem very far away seemed abnormally far away when they walked, abnormally unreachable. The little mound was so close, but no matter how much they walked, they couldn't reach it. It was as if the group was walking, and the dirt mound was walking as well. No matter how fast they walked, no matter how far they walked, they couldn't reach the dirt mound. But no one noticed anything out of the ordinary. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat, and he came back to his senses. Shock flashed in his eyes. This was something that couldn't be explained with common sense. Lin Yi had encountered something like this before. To be continued. Chapter 2461. It was that time in Zhang Liju's graveyard, that seemingly endless path, that bottomless abyss. Everything was so strange, and it was similar to today's situation. Lin Yi suddenly turned around and was even more startled. What was behind them was no longer the way they'd come. The exploration car was nowhere to be seen, and behind them were intersecting paths and dilapidated cottages. There were messy stone tablets and statues of some unknown things, but there was no way back. Linny bro, you noticed it too? Han Jingjing asked all of a sudden. Oh, you noticed it long ago? Lin Yi looked at Han Jingjing, a little surprised. Yeah. Han Jingjing waved the tablet in her hand and said, Our GPS coordinates haven't changed, but the scenery around us is completely different. In other words, we might have encountered the legendary ghost wall, and we've been going around in circles. Lin Yi looked at the tablet in Han Jingjing's hand, a little taken aback. This girl always used scientific methods to fight against things that weren't scientific, and she'd find a way to solve them. This surprised and delighted Lin Yi. Then, where's the exploration car? Lin Yi asked. Right here. Han Jingjing pointed at the coordinates on the tablet. I recorded it when we got off the car. So you're saying we've only walked less than half a kilometer? Lin Yi looked at the map on Han Jingjing's tablet, very surprised. That's about it. Han Jingjing said, You're quite cool-headed, using the GPS to calculate our location at a time like this. Lin Yi praised. Because I have Linny Bro with me. With Linny Bro here, I won't be scared anymore. I can study these things in peace. Han Jingjing said seriously. The two were talking when a creepy laugh came from the front. Lin Yi stopped in his tracks subconsciously and raised his head to look ahead. A white light flashed in front of Xin Yan and the others, and a misty shadow appeared out of nowhere. The shadow did not look like a human, nor did it look like a naturally formed fog. It was more like the soul of some kind of monster. Coupled with the creepy laughter, it didn't take a genius to figure out that this was the so-called ghost of the abandoned village. Another blood-curdling scream rang out. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. The voice didn't come from the ghost, but from Xiaolong. Xiaolong sat on the ground, his face ashen as he shivered. His pants were wet, and it was evident that he'd pissed himself. Right Coiling Tiger wasn't as useless as him, but he was shaking as well. This unknown terror made his throat go dry. He didn't know what to say. He was starting to regret listening to Xiaolong and coming down to explore. There really was something unclean in this village. Yellow and purple hair were practitioners, and although they weren't as messed up as Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger, their faces weren't too good either. This kind of strange and unexplainable thing. Even strong practitioners didn't know how to deal with it. Who's there? Don't play tricks if you don't show yourself. I'll kill you. Purple Hair was a mystic class master, after all, and he was a high and mighty existence in the common world. He still had some confidence facing this monster. Keek. The ghost formed by the mist suddenly laughed, and the laughter made people feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, Purple Hair felt like his throat was being strangled. He let out a ha-ha sound, wanting to say something, but he couldn't. Although, under everyone's strange gaze, a bang sound rang out. Purple Hair seemed to have been hit by a huge force, and he shot out from where he stood, smashing into a stone tablet a dozen meters away, making a loud bang. Puffed. Purple Hair spat out a mouthful of blood, clearly heavily injured. He struggled to stand up, but he didn't have the strength to do so, and after swaying a few times, he fainted. Yellow-haired and Right Coiling Tiger's faces were filled with shock. When the purple-haired man said those words, the two of them even felt that someone was trying to scare them. But now, it seemed like that wasn't the case. Purple Hair was a mystic class master, and to be able to heavily injure a mystic class master, what kind of master was that? The strangest thing was that the two of them didn't even see how the other made the move, and from what they could see, no one made a move, but Purple Hair was sent flying out just like that, smashing heavily into the stone tablet. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Lin Yi frowned at the evil ghost in front of him, and his guard was raised to the maximum. Of course, Lin Yi didn't think that it was a ghost. When he was exploring the ancient tomb, wasn't Boss Yu also pretending to be a ghost and killing people? At this moment, Xiaolong was stunned, and he wasn't too surprised that Purple Hair was sent flying. He just sat on the ground, expressionless. What made Lin Yi curious was that Wang Xinyan didn't say a word from start to finish, just standing there. Although she didn't turn around, and Lin Yi couldn't see her expression, Lin Yi could see from her body that she wasn't afraid, because Wang Xinyan stood very steadily, not trembling and not stumbling. This made Lin Yi suspicious. When did Wang Xinyan become so brave? When they were in the exploration car, Wang Xinyan was very resistant to getting off. How did she become a different person in such a short amount of time? Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi cursed inwardly. Something was wrong. Wang Xinyan must have fallen into some kind of magical state right now. After Lin Yi's shout, Wang Xinyan didn't react at all. She didn't even turn around to look at Lin Yi. This situation made Lin Yi even more certain that Wang Xinyan must have been bewitched by something in front of her. Lin Yi took a deep breath and started to compress a pure qi bomb in his hand. This intangible thing was also the hardest to deal with. Lin Yi didn't know if normal moves would be effective against it. But from the way purple hair was sent flying, this thing in front of him was definitely not simple. The most important thing was that Lin Yi couldn't use his golden finger to clearly see the strength of the thing in front of him. In other words, the person in front of him was either a very strong physical practitioner or he wasn't. The moment he attacked purple hair, Lin Yi still couldn't feel his strength. In other words, he wasn't a physical practitioner. To be continued. Chapter 2462. If that was the case, then the result was a little hard to accept. The answer was that this thing wasn't human at all, or rather, it wasn't even a spirit beast. Lin Yi could use his golden finger to check the strength of spirit beasts, but Lin Yi's golden finger didn't have any reaction to this misty thing. So Lin Yi didn't try the fiery 8 trigrams palm anymore. He started compressing the qi bomb and prepared to give this guy a big move. "You? Where are you?" Yellowhair's voice was trembling as he asked carefully. "Kakik." The monster laughed again, but it didn't answer Yellowhair's question. Instead, it seemed to be saying to Wang Xinyan, "Follow me." With that, the monster slowly floated into the distance. Wang Xinyan, on the other hand, took a step forward and followed behind the monster. Wang Xinyan wasn't a practitioner, and her walking speed was limited. But the monster seemed to know her speed, and it floated in front of her at the same speed. Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi saw Wang Xinyan follow the monster, and his heart jumped. He yelled again. But what disappointed Lin was that Wang Xinyan didn't seem to hear Lin Yi at all. She continued to follow the monster slowly. "Jingjing, wait here with Tiger Right and the others. I'll go take a look," Lin Yi said with a serious expression. The reason why he didn't let Han Jingjing follow was because if Lin Yi used the qi bomb later, it would be very difficult to protect Wang Xinyan. He wouldn't be able to take care of Han Jingjing, so leaving her with Tiger Right and the others was the safest choice. Moreover, from the current situation, it could be seen that this monster-like thing seemed to be interested in Wang Xinyan. As for Tiger Right, Xiaolong, Yellowhair, and Purple Hair, they didn't have much interest in her. Although it sent Purple Hair flying, it didn't die. It seemed that it only had one goal, and that was to capture Wang Xinyan. With that thought, Lin Yi quickly followed with big strides. However, the true qi bomb in his hand did not stop for even a moment. It was being compressed at a rapid speed. Lin Yi did not know what the enemy was, nor did he know how big the true qi bomb would be in order to kill it. So he could only try his best to compress as much true qi as possible, as long as he retained some of the true qi that could be used to repair his meridians after being injured. Lin Yi followed behind Wang Xinyan. The ghost in front of them didn't seem to care about Lin Yi. Its attention was all on Wang Xinyan. It turned a blind eye to Lin Yi's actions. Of course, it could also be that it saw Lin Yi, but it didn't care about Lin Yi at all. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi discovered that Han Jingjing and the others behind him had disappeared, and he himself had arrived in an unfamiliar environment. It was as if the path he walked and the scenery he passed by were changing. What the hell are you? Where was he taking Xianyan? If you don't say it, then I won't be polite. Lin Yi felt that the true qi bomb in his hand was almost done, so he said to that thing. However, that misty thing didn't seem to care about Lin Yi at all. It continued to lead Wang Xinyan forward in its own way, as if it didn't care about Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi frowned and suddenly increased his pace. He suddenly pulled Wang Xinyan behind him and threw a true qi bomb over, exploding on top of that misty thing. Boom dash, a loud sound. This was the sound of the energy explosion. When Lin Yi released the true qi bomb, he used his true qi to separate Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi wouldn't die from the explosion, but if Wang Xinyan was hit by it, then she definitely wouldn't be able to survive. Following this loud sound, the misty thing exploded into pieces, turning into small wisps of mist that spread out. This situation made Lin Yi let out a deep sigh of relief. It didn't matter if the thing in front of him was a human or a ghost. It was finally killed. Oh, Lin, he was about to turn around. Just as he was about to check on Wang Xinyan, he heard an eerie laugh. Jiji Jaiji. As Lin, he looked over in horror. The misty thing that had turned into wisps of mist actually gathered together again, forming into that thing that didn't look like a human or a ghost. The laughter came from that thing. Oh, you're fine? Lin, he looked at the misty thing in front of him in shock. Kid, I didn't think you'd have some skills. It's been thousands of years. You're the first person that can blast me apart. The thing finally took the initiative to talk to Lin Yi. Before, it didn't even bother talking to Lin Yi, Xiaolong, or Tiger Yu. What are you? Why did you take my friend away? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This thing wasn't afraid of the true Qi bomb. You don't need to know what I am. I took her away for a reason. After a short moment of silence, the thing spoke again. Go, I won't hurt you. You're a ghost. Lin Yi's brain was working furiously, trying to think of a solution. This thing said that it wouldn't hurt him, but it was only because it saw how strong he was. If it were purple hair, it would have sent it flying with a slap. Of course, Lin Yi's strength was only a little surprising in the eyes of this thing. It wouldn't hurt him, but that didn't mean it would let Wang Xinyan go. But this time, the thing didn't reply to Lin Yi, continuing to lead Wang Xinyan forward. Wang Xinyan's eyes were still empty, as if she had lost her mind. Lin Yi called out to her, but there was no response. Lin Yi wanted to stop Wang Xinyan from leaving, but he was afraid that this thing would retaliate. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi searched for ways to deal with ghosts in TV shows. Normal methods didn't work on this thing, so Lin Yi had to find another way. Lin Yi didn't watch TV shows usually, and after thinking hard for a long time, he finally remembered a ghost hunting movie he watched with Meng Yao and Yushu. It said that ghosts weren't afraid of attacks, but they were afraid of light and fire. In the past, there was also a saying that starting a fire could chase away small ghosts. Lin Yi thought about it, and this was the only way he could use it. Other Maoshan Taoist arts, Lin Yi didn't know a thing. Thinking about this, Lin Yi quickly followed and suddenly condensed a fire element alchemic fire in his hand, grabbing at the misty thing. Arg! The misty thing cried out in pain, and it didn't care about leading Wang Xinyan anymore. It floated far away in an instant. It floated a few meters away from the alchemic fire in Lin Yi's hand before stopping. Its voice was full of shock. Elixir Refiner. Chapter 2463. That's right. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't admit that he was an alchemist, and it seemed that he had made the right bet. This thing was really afraid of alchemic fire, and it didn't seem to be just a normal kind of fear. Its previously calm voice was now filled with fear. Lin Yi's words made the other party fall silent. After a while, it said, "Even if you are an alchemist, this is my territory. Without my permission, you will never be able to take her away, including your other companions. They will all get lost here and die." What do you mean by these words? Lin Yi asked without batting an eyelid. In fact, Lin Yi was overjoyed. He knew that this thing was starting to give in. It didn't make a move, nor did it say anything too extreme. It only said that even alchemists couldn't leave its territory. It's simple. I'll let you go, but she has to go with me. Although the thing didn't clearly say who she was, Lin Yi knew that she must be Wang Xinyan. Hee, that's impossible. Lin Yi didn't even give a chance to bargain and directly refused. Then you'll be trapped here until you die. I'm leaving, the thing said after a moment of hesitation. Do you think that you can leave? If you want to fight to the death, then I don't mind. Lin Yi once again condensed alchemic fire in his hand. During the conversation and the silence, Lin Yi had already begun to use the art of dragon mastery to recover the physical strength that he used when compressing the true Qi bomb. Your physical strength is limited. I don't believe that you can keep chasing me with alchemic fire. The thing was obviously not stupid. It said calmly, "Before, what kind of martial technique did you use? You must have used up a lot of your true Qi, right? There shouldn't be much left now. Is that so?" Lin Yi's lips curled into a mocking smile, and he immediately released his true Qi. Huh, that's impossible in such a short time. You actually recovered 70 to 80% of your physical strength. How is that possible? The ghostly thing screamed in horror. Although this is a blessed land for cultivation, the density of the Jinchi here is gradually thinning. Even if you were here, it would be impossible for you to recover so quickly. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. Maybe it's impossible. That's not what you say. It's the truth. Lin Yi smiled faintly, then said, the speed at which I recover my true chi is this fast. So if this continues, it's hard to say whether you or I will die. That damn thing fell silent again. Obviously, it had tacitly agreed with Lin Yi's words. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in such a situation. Now can we talk? Lin Yi asked again. All right. That damn thing was annoyed by Lin Yi's tone. Although he agreed to talk to Lin Yi, he still added, if I didn't exist in the form of a primordial spirit, you're just a small mid-earth class alchemist. You wouldn't even be qualified to carry my shoes. There's no if. Lin Yi was not annoyed. He just shrugged and said, if I wasn't an alchemist, I wouldn't be able to let you talk to me as an equal. That's right, there's no if. That damn thing was slightly stunned. Instead, he said, the victor is king. This is an unchanging principle since ancient times. If I didn't, forget it. Let's not talk about this. You're right. You do have the right to talk to me now. All right, let's talk. Do you decide to fight to the death or let us go? Lin Yi asked. It's absolutely impossible for me to let you go. That damn thing said decisively. I've waited for so many years. Finally, this opportunity. I don't have time. The aura of heaven and earth here is getting thinner and thinner. I can't wait any longer. If I wait any longer, my primordial spirit will slowly dissipate. Primordial spirit? This was the second time Lin Yi heard this damn thing mention this name. Could it be that this damn thing in front of him was really a trace of a super powerful cultivator's soul left after his death in ancient times? Lin Yi had read in some anecdotes that some cultivators could guarantee that their primordial spirit would not be destroyed when they died, and one day they could rebuild their body or take over someone else's body. But there was no confirmation of the truth of this matter, because in the current cultivation world, the highest master was the Heaven Stage Master. Above that, Lin Yi really hadn't seen it. Even Little Miss Rock Candy might not know about it. So for the things mentioned in the anecdotes, Lin Yi really didn't take it seriously before. But now, hearing this damn thing mention it, Lin Yi's heart moved slightly. You are a primordial spirit? Lin Yi asked. You know about primordial spirit? That damn thing was obviously stunned. I heard that some high-level cultivators can guarantee that their primordial spirit will not be destroyed when they die, and one day they can rebuild their body or take over someone else's body. Is that true? Lin Yi said what he knew. More or less. That damn thing didn't deny it. You want to take over someone else's body? Lin Yi looked at Wang Xinyan, and his expression changed slightly. He suddenly thought of an extremely terrifying possibility. That damn thing was a little speechless at Lin Yi's words. You think too much. Let's not talk about the fact that she is not a cultivator. She is just a mortal. I would choose you to take over someone else's body, not her. Besides, taking over someone else's body is a trick of the demon sect. I just want to protect my primordial spirit and rebuild my body one day. I see. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief and said, Then why are you looking for her? I found a special aura on her body. The ghostly thing said, with this aura, I can speed up my cultivation. Right now, the heaven and earth spirit chi here is very thin. My cultivation speed is far from enough to replenish the daily consumption of my primordial spirit. In other words, I'm living off my primordial spirit, and if this goes on for too long, my primordial spirit will become unstable and my soul will dissipate. Lin Yi's face changed a little at the words. He didn't think that this damn thing's senses would be this sharp, able to discover Wang Xinyan's secret. Lin Yi thought that this secret wouldn't be easily discovered by other cultivators. After all, Lin Yi wasn't the only cultivator around Wang Xinyan. There were other cultivators around her, but none of them had discovered it. Now that this damn thing had discovered it, Lin Yi's face darkened a little. Oh, It looks like you've discovered this secret as well. That damn thing saw the look on Lin Yi's face, and knew that Lin Yi probably knew about it as well. That's right. You recovered your chi so quickly just now because of this strange fragrance? School Bell's Bodyguard is on sale now. It's on Amazon, Dang Dang, and Taobao. Readers who like it can buy it for their collection. To be continued. Chapter 2464. Lin Yi didn't say anything. He didn't deny it, nor did he admit it. No, even if there is such a fragrance, it is impossible for you to recover so quickly in this place where the heaven and earth spirit chi is so thin. No, definitely not. The ghostly thing denied its previous judgment. Don't think about these useless things. First, are you going to let them go or not? Lin Yi asked. Let them go. After the ghostly thing said these two words, it suddenly didn't say anything. What do you mean? Lin Yi saw that the ghostly thing was silent and frowned. Let me ask you something. The ghostly thing suddenly said. What? Lin Yi asked. Nothing, forget it. The ghostly thing didn't ask again. What do you mean? Lin Yi was somewhat puzzled. I can let you go, but you have to agree to a condition of mine. The ghostly thing suddenly put forward its own condition. Why should I agree to your condition? Lin Yi asked. Just as you said, although you want to fight to the death, you won't be able to kill me in a short period of time, and I won't be able to kill you. Although you can continuously recover your strength and true energy, it will take you some time to kill me. That ghostly thing said slowly. Although I'm afraid of your alchemic fire because it will consume the energy of my primordial spirit, it won't be able to kill me in a short period of time. In any case, I'll be able to fend for myself in a few more decades anyway. If you don't agree to my conditions, then we'll fight to the death. I believe that you can recover your physical strength and true chi, but your friends and the one in front of you won't live long without eating. When the time comes, you will leave alone and your friends will die. Lin Yi was somewhat speechless, but he didn't doubt the ghostly thing's words. This ghostly thing didn't need to deceive Lin Yi about these things. Moreover, if you agree to my condition, I will give you some good things in return. Furthermore, if you agree to my conditions, I'll give you something good in return. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't say anything, the ghost began to tempt him. Anyway, those things were basically useless to it, so it might as well take them out to sell favor. What is it? Lin Yi asked after pondering for a moment. You come with me. I'll take you there to have a look, the ghostly thing said. All right. Lin Yi nodded his head and agreed. Now that he could condense his Dan flame, he wasn't afraid of this ghostly thing deceiving him. Moreover, it seemed like this ghostly thing needed his help, so it wouldn't joke about this kind of thing. With that, the thing floated forward with Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan following close behind. Xinyan's eyes were still empty, as if she was possessed, but Lin Yi was relieved. This ghostly thing probably didn't have any ill intentions towards Xinyan for now. They walked forward for about 400 to 500 meters. It wasn't very far, but the scene in front of them suddenly changed. In theory, they should be able to see the situation here from the previous place, but Lin Yi couldn't. Clearly, the environment here was under the control of this ghostly thing, and it used some kind of camouflage spell. It's here, the ghostly thing said calmly. Lin Yi walked over and lowered his head. He found a skeleton on the ground. The flesh had long since decayed, and it looked like it had been there for a long time. Beside the skeleton, there was a small bag. Lin Yi didn't know what the small bag was made of, but it didn't rot or break and was in perfect condition. Is it this? Lin Yi pointed at the small bag on the ground and asked. Yes, this is a practitioner who accidentally broke into this place to steal something, and I killed him. This is his relic, the ghostly thing said. Oh, relic? Lin Yi bent down and opened the small bag. In the bag, Lin Yi saw two things. One was an incomparably large spirit beast core, and Lin Yi could feel the enormous amount of energy within it as soon as he touched it. The amount of energy was at an unimaginable level, much more than the spirit beast cores that Lin Yi had obtained before. This surprised Lin. Spirit beast core? Yes. The ghostly thing said proudly. This is what he stole from me, this core. You just need to know that it's not a normal core. Keep it. It has great use, don't waste it. Oh, Linny originally wanted to collect it and make a profound chi necklace with other spirit beast cores, but this ghostly thing said that it was a great treasure, so Lin E hesitated. Therefore, Lin E asked, if I use it to make a profound chi necklace, is it considered a waste? Extremely wasteful. The ghostly thing seemed to be very angry after listening. A profound chi necklace. Only 5 heaven-rank spirit beast cores are enough. This, Linny sucked in a breath of cold air. Only 5 heaven-rank spirit beast cores? Why does it sound like heaven-rank spirit beast cores are very worthless? This also reflected a problem, and that is the spirit beast core in Lin Yi's hand must be beyond heaven rank. So what level of strength would it be? Okay, don't ask so much. You don't need it for the time being. Just keep it. The ghostly thing seemed to not want to explain too much to Lin Yi, and just said so. Okay. Lin Yi nodded. The heaven rank peak late phase master is a poor bastard. There's only a fragment of the map in the bag. I don't know if it's of value to you. The ghostly thing pointed at the bag on the ground and said, a heaven rank peak late phase master? You killed him? Lin Yi looked at the bones on the ground in shock, and his heart ached. If he didn't use his Dan fire to suppress this ghostly thing, he might really be nothing in its eyes. Indeed, just a poor bastard, the ghostly thing said. This is it. Take a look and see if it's okay. If it's okay, then promise me one thing. Lin E hesitated, but still silently found the fragment of the map in the bag. But after seeing it, Lin E was slightly shocked. This fragment of the map was very familiar to Lin E. He even had 2 fragments like this in his house. This fragment of the map, the one he got from the Secular House Use auction, and the one he got from the Shark's Stomach, should be the same type of fragment. He didn't think that he would find another one here. However, Lin E didn't know the specific use of this fragment of the map, but since the Secular House You valued it so much, it must have some value. To be continued. Chapter 2465. However, in Lin Yi's eyes, the common house use position had obviously dropped a lot. They weren't as mysterious as before, so the value of this map was naturally lowered by Lin Yi. This was also why Lin Yi kept them in the drawer to collect dust and didn't study them. But now that this map had appeared beside the skeleton of a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master, it proved that this map still had some value. A Sky-class late-phase Peak Master didn't bring anything else, but a map was enough to prove this point. No matter what, there was no reason for Lin Yi to let go of such a good thing. Although he didn't know what these 2 things could be used for, Lin Yi still decided to keep them. What conditions do you have? Lin Yi looked at the thing and asked. Promise me first or not? The thing said. If you don't say anything, how can I promise? Lin Yi frowned. If you want me to die, would I still die? That won't be possible. The conditions that I've set out will guarantee that all of you will be able to leave safely. You won't have to pay anything, and it won't cause any substantial harm or loss to you. The ghostly thing said, moreover, it's just a piece of cake for you. Now that you put it like that, I'm a little confused. What conditions are you talking about? Tell me. Lin Yi was very puzzled. Why was this thing stuttering? Why couldn't it just say the conditions? This is very important. You have to promise me first before I can say it. The thing said firmly. Okay. Lin Yi was a little helpless. If it's really as you said, and your conditions are really nothing, and it won't cause any harm or loss to me and my friends, then I can promise you. But if it's not as you said, then the promise is invalid. Lin Yi was a person who took promises seriously, and he didn't easily promise things to others. And if he promised, he would find a way to do it. Since this darn thing wanted Lin Yi to guarantee first, Lin Yi naturally added such an additional condition. Haha, how refreshing. The ghostly thing laughed and suddenly pounced on Lin Yi. You. Lin Yi turned pale with fright. He was just about to condense his pill fire to fight against this ghostly thing, but he hadn't condensed his pill fire yet. Thus, a huge change occurred. What happened next caused Lin Yi to be indescribably horrified. After the ghostly thing rushed towards Lin Yi, it suddenly shrank into a straight line and entered Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's first thought was that he had been possessed. However, even though he was shocked, he didn't notice anything strange. He was still himself. Even his thoughts had not changed. It seemed that he had not been possessed. However, where did that damn thing go? If he didn't possess me, then why did he disappear after entering my body? Just as Lin Yi was in shock, suddenly the ghostly thing's voice was heard again. Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. I will definitely repay you in the future. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, but then his expression changed, because the way this ghostly thing spoke was the same as the way he and Jiao Lao conversed. It was transmitted directly to the mind through thoughts, and this ghostly thing was doing the same now. Didn't that mean? Did it run into my jade pendant? Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly turned pale with fright. He subconsciously entered the space of the jade pendant, but when he saw it, he was immediately dumbfounded. At this moment, that ghostly thing seemed to be enjoying itself, staying in the space of the jade pendant. Although it only occupied a small corner, in Lin Yi's eyes, it was so dazzling, stimulating Lin Yi's nerves. This is my jade pendant. How did this thing come in? Since when can my jade pendant allow strangers to enter and leave freely? What the hell is going on? How did you come in? What do you want to do? Asked Lin Yi in shock. Ha! This place is much better than that girl. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this. I'm going to sleep here first. You don't have to care about me. Just pretend that I don't exist in the future. The ghostly thing said excitedly. When I wake up, I will give you benefits. You want to live here for a long time? The corner of Lin Yi's mouth twitched twice. Didn't you agree to my conditions? It's just a little effort from you, and it won't cause harm or influence to you and your friends. I did what I said. The ghostly thing said. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Well, I'm going to sleep goodbye. With that said, the ghostly thing didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer. It shrunk into a small ball and hid in the corner of the space of the jade pendant. Hey, you wait first. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're occupying my territory now. Why don't you explain how you came in? There was no sound. The ghostly thing really did what it said and went asleep directly. Lin Yi's words were equivalent to saying nothing. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't know what to say because it was useless. Sighing helplessly, Lin Yi turned to look at Jiao Yazi and said, Jiao Lao, what did it do? How did it come in? How would I know? It came in just like that. Jiao Yazi shook his head. This space is yours, not mine. I'm just an avatar of my primordial spirit. Primordial spirit? You're also a primordial spirit? Lin Yi was stunned and asked. It seems so, but I'm not too sure. I've already said that a lot of my memories haven't been unlocked. So, there are a lot of things that I can't explain. Jiao Yazi said, however, it's obvious that this thing can come in because you instructed it. As for how you instructed it, I'm not too sure, but it doesn't matter. It shouldn't have any malice towards you. Lin Yi nodded. If this ghostly thing had malice towards him, it wouldn't have waited until now. Chapter 2466. Chapter 2472. Secret Service, they were all shocked. Then, if I accidentally die, can my primordial spirit be preserved? Lin Yi asked. I don't know. You can try, but you won't be able to live if you die, Jiao Yazi said. Lin Yi was speechless. Huh? Where am I? Lin Yi heard Xinyan's surprised voice all of a sudden. Lin Yi hurriedly came out of the jade pendant space, but he saw a completely different scene. The barren village was still the same barren village. The skeleton on the ground was still there, and the small bag that Lin Yi emptied was still there. However, the scene behind him had completely changed. Not far away, Han Jingjing, Right Coiling Tiger, Xiaolong, Yellow Hair, and Purple Hair were all there, and they could faintly see the lights of the expedition car in the distance. This place had completely returned to normal, and it was no longer a hallucinatory state. Xinyan, on the other hand, was looking around with a confused expression on her face. She let out a breath of relief when she saw Lin Yi standing right beside her. Xinyan, are you all right? Lin Yi hurriedly asked. I'm fine. Xinyan shook her head, a little confused. Lin Yi, I remember getting off the car, but I don't remember anything after that. How we end up so far away? Why are there skulls on the ground? Xinyan was a medical student. After all, she was a little scared by the skull, but not to the point where her legs went weak. It's okay. We encountered a ghost wall and couldn't get out. Now, everything is over. Lin Yi said, let's go. Let's go back. Wall hitting ghosts. Xinyan's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't remember anything from before, and it seemed like nothing good had happened. And but it's nothing. It's all in the past now. Lin Yi didn't want to explain too much to Xinyan, in case she overthought things. After all, Xinyan had lost her mind before, and she didn't feel much of the horror. All right. Xinyan nodded, not wanting to stay in this damned place. Han Jingjing and the others were also very surprised. Previously, they saw Lin Yi walking away and suddenly disappeared. Now they could see Lin Yi again. They were a little surprised. Lin Yi and Xinyan walked over. Xiaolong was still sitting on the ground, his face still ashen. Right Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, was looking at the sudden change in scenery with a bit of surprise and confusion. Where's that ghost? Yupanu glanced at Lin. He was scared away by me. Lin Yi was unwilling to explain further. He could not tell Pan who about the jade pendant. In fact, until now, Lin Yi still hadn't recovered from the shock. The jade pendant had always been his biggest secret. Other than himself, only Jiao Yazi knew about it. How did this damn thing know? It was a little unbelievable. The scariest thing was that it could enter and live there. Lin Yi felt very helpless. Scared away? Yupanu blinked. You scared it away? Yeah, that thing was scared of the core fire. It ran away as soon as I started the core fire. You could have scared away too, Lin Yi said. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Yupanu was speechless. He wouldn't have been so scared if he'd known earlier. I didn't test it out earlier. Lin Yi said, all right, let's go back. Your purple-haired follower should be dead soon, right? He's fine. I gave him a small recovery pill. His wounds are all external, and he'll be fine after we control it. Yupanu answered Lin Yi honestly. The situation before it scared him to death. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, they might not have been able to walk out alive. Plus, Old Man had told him that Lin Yi could hurt even Sky-class masters. Yupanu was very afraid of him. Xinyan sis, are you okay? Han Jingjing looked at Xinyan up and down, a little surprised. Xinyan didn't look scared at all. It seemed that there was some kind of inside story behind this. I'm fine. Xinyan smiled. She was indeed the least frightened of the group, and hadn't seen the thing from the very beginning. She only woke up when the thing entered Lin Yi's jade. Oh, that's good then. Han Jingjing nodded. Xiaolong got up from the ground and looked at Lin Yi and Xinyan in silence. He blushed a little awkwardly. It was his idea to get out of the car and explore this place, but he was the first one to be scared out of his wits. It was Lin Yi, the one he'd been mocking all this time, who was the first one to rush in when Xinyan was in trouble. It was obvious who was the stronger one here, and Xiaolong was embarrassed. He didn't dare act cool in front of Lin Yi anymore. The group walked in the direction of the adventure car in silence. Suddenly, a skull flew towards Xiaolong from the sky. Xiaolong had just been scared out of his wits, and even though Lin Yi said that he scared the ghost away, Xiaolong still hadn't recovered from his shock. Suddenly, a skull came flying at him, scaring him out of his wits. Ah! Xinyan had been walking beside Lin Yi with her head down when she heard Xiaolong scream. She jumped in fright and looked up to see the skull flying towards them. Ah! She subconsciously jumped into Lin Yi's arms. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't scared. He wasn't scared of that thing that was beyond Sky class, so why would he be scared of a flying skull? But with a beauty in his arms, Lin Yi was naturally happy to let nature take its course. He hugged Xinyan and said, "Don't be scared, it'll be fine, meow." A cat's cry broke everyone's fear. When the skull came closer, Xiaolong saw that it wasn't a freaking flying skull at all. It was clearly a cat that had somehow managed to push the skull of a skeleton onto its head from who knows where. However, this cat's color was black, so it wasn't particularly clear in the dark. It couldn't be seen from a distance. If one didn't look carefully, they would really think that it was a flying skull. Fuck, you scared me to death. Xiaolong panted and rubbed his chest. Yupon, who didn't know what to say. He wouldn't have been scared if it weren't for Xiaolong's reaction. Xinyan, on the other hand, was blushing as she tried to escape from Lin Yi's embrace. But Lin Yi was holding her so tightly that she couldn't break free. Lin Yi, I'm sorry, I was scared too. I couldn't help but hug you tight. Lin Yi let go of Xinyan awkwardly and laughed. Yes, please. Xinyan had almost died, so there was no way Lin Yi would let this driver go so easily. At that thought, Lin Yi picked up the black cat in his hand and stuck it on the window of the driver's seat. The driver was terrified, but he could only suppress his fear and raise his head to see what was going on. But when he raised his head, the driver's eyes widened, and his mouth dropped wide open. He saw a skull outside the driver's window. Moreover, within the skull, there was a pair of glowing green eyes staring at him. Oh my god. Hashtag %. Ghost. The driver screamed in terror and lay on the steering wheel, not moving an inch. Lin Yi put the cat down casually, and under the shocked gazes of the others, he pushed the door open and got into the car. Lin Yi, why are you scaring him? Who's going to drive if you scare him to death? Xiaolong frowned, not understanding Lin Yi's actions. There's no gas in this car. He won't be able to drive even if he's alive, Lin Yi said faintly. No gas. Xiaolong blinked. Isn't it broken? He told Xiaolong and coiling Tiger about what happened and harumphed. Isn't this all your fault? Xiaolong was a little embarrassed, but he still defended himself. If I didn't stand up for him, you would have stood up for him when he was harassing Xinyan. How can you blame this on me? If I stood up for him, that idiot Su would have turned into an idiot. I wouldn't have given him the chance. Lin Yi glanced at coiling Tiger faintly. I'm sure coiling Tiger knows this very well. There's a blue-haired guy in his house, and I blew his brain up with pure energy. You coiling Tiger shivered involuntarily, forcing a smile. All right, Lin Yi, what's done is done. Kong Bro was just being nice. He's not as strong as you, so it's good enough that he could do this. Xiaolong, on the other hand, felt a little awkward. He turned around to check if the car was really out of gas. When he saw the driver, he realized that the driver had no heartbeat. Lin Yi, he's scared to death. Oh, so what if he's dead? Lin Yi said nonchalantly. Lin Yi didn't need to hide anything in front of Xiaolong and coiling Tiger. There were too many people related to House Kong and House Yu that had been crippled or killed by Lin Yi, so there was no need to hide anything. There weren't any other students present, anyway. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing were people that Lin Yi trusted, so he wasn't worried that they'd tell anyone. The corner of Xiaolong's mouth twitched. Indeed, the driver of the exploration car was dead, and he deserved it. Xiaolong was actually quite happy about it. It was a relief to him. He'd been holding back a lot of anger before, and when he found out that he was tricked by the driver, he felt even more depressed. Now that Lin Yi had helped him vent his anger, it was the same as helping him vent his anger. Then, what do we do now? We can't just stay here forever, can we? Xiaolong's interest had waned. He'd thought that Lin Yi was afraid of ghosts, but Lin Yi wasn't afraid at all. He'd made a fool out of himself, so naturally, he didn't want to stay here any longer. But before Lin Yi could say anything, his phone rang. Lin Yi took out his phone and looked at the caller ID. He picked it up immediately. Hello, Mr. Bot. Latest update, please. Chapter 2468. Cultivators Market. Lin Yi, where are you guys? How come I can't see your car? We've already visited the village, but you're nowhere to be seen. Where's that car? Boss Bai's nervous heart finally relaxed after hearing Lin Yi's voice. Everything was fine. Mr. Bai, I was just about to call you. We've run into some trouble here. Lin Yi started lying through his teeth. Earlier, the driver of our car seemed to be possessed. He drove the car onto a small road, and it wasn't the same road as the car in front of us. After that, the car stopped for no reason, and the driver screamed. Then, there was no more movement. We just checked, and it seems like the driver is dead. What? The driver is dead? Boss Bai was shocked. How'd he die? I think he was scared to death. Lin, he said. Did he see something scary? How are you guys? Are you guys okay? Boss Bai quickly asked. We're okay, but we don't know where we are, and we don't dare to act recklessly. Lin, he said. All right, don't move yet. I'll look for the people from the resort. This car seems to have a GPS system. Boss Bai said. All right. Lin, he nodded. Lin, he hung up. Xiaolong and Tiger Right hesitated, but didn't say anything. They weren't interested in exposing Lin Yi for scaring the driver to death. This was something the driver deserved. And to them, if they were to say anything bad to Lin Yi, they'd probably be the next ones to die. After Boss Bai hung up the phone, he immediately found the security team of the resort. When Captain Sun of a security team heard that the driver of the exploration car was scared to death, he was also shocked and turned to look at Dae Su. Dae Su wanted to scare Xiaolong and Tiger Right, but he didn't expect the driver to be dead as well. His face paled. Although he couldn't be held responsible for this matter, the exploration car driver had died while serving the resort. The resort would at least have to compensate a large sum of money. At that time, his uncle would definitely scold him. Thinking of this, Dae Su didn't reflect on his wrongdoings. Instead, he shifted his hatred onto Xiaolong and Tiger Right. Of course, he hated Lin Yi and Xinyan, who were in the same car. He had to take revenge. But now, it couldn't be realized for the time being. He had to think of a way to calm things down quickly. If the news of the resort scaring someone to death were to spread, who would come here to play? The matter was resolved quickly, and the resort used the GPS to locate Lin Yi and the others. They then sent another car to pick them up. The whole process was quick, and the body of the driver was taken away. What happened next had nothing to do with Lin Yi and the others. As for whether or not the resort would pay the driver's family a large sum of money, that was unknown. After returning to the resort, Han Jingjing and Xinyan were exhausted. Lin, he hadn't fully recovered yet, so they went to bed early. Wei Tuo, on the other hand, didn't come back until the middle of the night. Lin Yi and the others were in trouble, but it didn't bother the other students. After all, they didn't experience it themselves. Lin Yi and the others had returned safely, so they went to play. They didn't come back until the early hours of the morning. They went skiing the next day, but Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Han Jingjing weren't as excited. They only went for a walk, and Tiger Yu and Xiaolong didn't even change their skis and skis. They weren't in a good mood, either. In the afternoon, everyone took the bus back to school. The winter outing was officially over. On the way back, it could be said to be smooth sailing. There were no car accidents or robberies. Soon, they arrived at the school. At the same time, Lin Yi received some good news. It made him feel better, but it was unrealistic to say that he wasn't depressed at all. That thing was residing in Lin Yi's jade. Lin Yi couldn't chase it away, nor could he communicate with it. He could only ignore it for now. Most importantly, Lin Yi couldn't ask others about this strange thing. He couldn't ask Old Pai or Faubert, because the secret of the jade couldn't be easily revealed to others. When Lin Yi returned to school, he received a call from Han Xiaopa. Boss, I have good news, Han Xiaopa said directly after the call connected. Oh, what good news? Lin Yi's heart tightened. In the middle of this month, there will be a practitioner's market in the nearby Mount Elephant Heart, Han Xiaopa said. Han Xiaopa said, although the scale isn't large, with only a few loose practitioners and reclusive family members participating, these people might have good stuff in their hands. Who knows, they might even have the materials you need, boss. Oh, that's great. Lin Yi had been looking forward to the cultivator's market for a long time. He had Han Jingjing make so many small qi gathering pills in preparation for the cultivator's market. Lin Yi also had a bunch of random things he had won from the Hidden Houses Summit, so he could trade them for things he needed in the market. Boss, if you're going to participate, I'll tell the organizer to reserve 2 spots, Han Xiaopa said. Of course I'm going, Lin Yi said. But is there anything I need in the market? Hard to say, but I heard there's pure topaz for sale, Han Xiaopa said. Aside from me, other people need pure topaz? Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised. I'm not sure, but it said that when heaven-class masters temper their weapons, they use some good jade, and pure topaz is one of them. Of course, it's not the only one, so if boss needs it, it's not hard to get it. After all, not every heaven-class master needs this kind of pure topaz, Han Xiaopa explained. Han Xiaopa explained. During this period of time, he had been listening to these things. He had already learned about the uses of pure topaz, colored steel, and blue crystal powder. So that's how it is. Linny nodded. Then tell me, what price do I need to pay to get pure topaz? That's hard to say. It depends on how much pure topaz there is and what the person wants. If they don't need a material urgently, they just need to trade something of a higher value. If someone needs a material urgently, even if the material's value is lower than pure topaz, they'll still trade, Han Xiaopa said. Chapter 2469. Shu's Plan. What I have in my hands are the things we got from the Hidden House Summit, as well as some pills. Are these enough? More or less. The people who went this time were all solo practitioners, and there were also some guests or elders from the hidden houses and small sections. These people aren't that knowledgeable. Boss, these things you have are good stuff, Han Xiaopa said after some thought. Han Xiaopa thought for a moment and said, but just in case, it's best to prepare 1 or 2 especially valuable items in case of emergencies. Something really valuable? Linny frowned. What did he have that was really valuable? He wasn't a disciple of some hidden house or sect, and he didn't have their resources. He couldn't think of anything. It's hard to say. Some people need this, some people need that. I'll bring some good stuff too, but I don't know if they'll be of help to you. Han Xiaopa was speaking the truth. Everyone had their own favorites. If the good stuff in your eyes wasn't useful to the practitioner, then the practitioner wouldn't trade it with you. Okay, I'll prepare, Linny nodded. After saying goodbye to Xinyan, Bai Wei Tuo, and the others, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing drove back to the villa in the Shueshang district. He just parked the car when he saw 2 beautiful figures in the yard. Yao Shu, why are you guys here? Lin Yi asked as he got out of the car. It's snowing, and Shu told me to build a snowman. Meng Yao smiled when she saw Lin Yi. You're back. Yeah, I'm back. Lin Yi nodded and was about to say something when a snowball came flying at him. Lin Yi dodged it and smiled bitterly. Shu, you still use hidden weapons? Man, it's boring. Shield bro, can't you just dodge? It's so boring. Yushu wanted to hit Lin Yi's head with a snowball, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to react so quickly. Then I'll stand here, and you can start again? Lin Yi laughed. Forget it. Shield bro, help us build a snowman. Yushu said as she bent down and started sweeping the snow from the corner of the yard. Before you came, Shu and I would build snowmen in the yard every winter when it snowed. Meng Yao explained with a smile. There's someone from the management company clearing the snow outside, but we have to clear the snow inside ourselves. Shu and I made snowmen out of it. Lin Yi nodded, a little wistful. He'd been with Meng Yao and Yushu for almost a year in the blink of an eye. It was already the end of the year, and spring hadn't even started when he'd first arrived. Jingjing, you want to come too? Yushu asked after some hesitation. Sure, Han Jingjing agreed happily. And so, the 4 of them started building a snowman in the yard. There wasn't much snow in the yard, so it didn't take long for the 4 of them to finish. The 3 entered the villa together. Lin Yi went to cook, while Meng Yao, Yushu, and Han Jingjing chatted in the living room. Getting Han Jingjing on her side was something Yushu thought of on the spur of the moment. Wang Xinyan seemed to have something she couldn't say. Yushu could tell that Wang Xinyan liked Lin Yi, but she rejected Lin Yi and didn't tell Meng Yao the truth over the phone. Everyone had their own secrets. Yushu, who always liked to gossip, surprisingly didn't try to pry. She was the same as Wang Xinyan, having a secret that she couldn't divulge. She liked Lin Yi too, and she liked living in this villa, but she knew that one day, all of this would no longer belong to her. The hidden house used strength, to be honest, was like a mountain in front of Lin Yi. But now, Lin Yi's strength after the meeting of the hidden houses showed that he was on par with the hidden house Yu. Especially now that Lin Yi had broken through to Earth-class mid-phase peak. House Yu would have to think twice before making a move on Lin Yi. Under this situation, Yushu knew that if she begged Lin Yi to save her parents, it wouldn't be too hard. At least, House Yu didn't want to openly go against Lin Yi. This could be seen from the fact that they didn't send masters to assassinate Lin Yi, instead using poison to assassinate him. They didn't want to have a direct confrontation with Lin Yi. At least, they didn't have a high chance of winning. So if Lin Yi failed to get Yushu's parents, Lin Yi and the hidden house, you would completely fall out. If the hidden house you was just a hidden house you, it wouldn't matter, but Yushu knew that behind the hidden house you, there was an extremely powerful backer. When Yushu was young, LW had once let slip that his backer didn't even put the ancient sex in his eyes. Just what kind of existence was that? So, Yushu could only bury her worries and pain in her heart. She knew how strong Lin Yi was. Although Yushu seemed to be a troublemaker and would often cause trouble for Lin Yi, in reality, Yushu never messed with people that she couldn't afford to mess with. This was also her cleverness. She would rather suffer than bring trouble to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't even have the strength to take down the hidden house, not to mention the ancient sex. Even if Lin Yi could stand on equal footing with the ancient sex, he might not be able to go against the hidden house you. So, Yushu could only choose to accept it quietly and do her best to stay by Lin Yi's side. She could only muddle through the days with the warmth. Maybe one day, this warmth would leave her. She had pulled Han Jingjing over with the intention of replacing her. Yushu had chosen Xinyan because she wasn't a scheming person. Even if she moved into the villa, she wouldn't fight with Meng Yao for Meng Yao's favor. She wouldn't start an internal war. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, Yushu just couldn't see through her. This girl looked cute, but Yushu didn't think that was the case at all. If she was the genius Shu, then she was the genius Jing. Things like scientific alchemy weren't something a normal person could come up with. As a result, Yushu felt that under Han Jingjing's cute and adorable appearance, there was a girl with an IQ similar to her own and a mind that was no less scheming than hers. A person like that, if they were on good terms with Meng Yao, would protect her and even help her out with some small problems. But if she wanted to fight with Meng Yao wouldn't be her match. Chapter 2470. Eating one meal, less meal. However, Yushu had no other choice. After the two accidents failed, Yushu knew that although she was still staying in the villa, it wasn't long before she left. She had to arrange things after she left. Since Xinyan couldn't do it, Yushu could only choose Han Jingjing as her successor. Based on her observations, Han Jingjing didn't hold anything back towards Lin Yi. She even shared things like concocting pills with Lin Yi. It was evident that Han Jingjing didn't have any intentions of hiding anything from Lin Yi. As long as Han Jingjing was sincere towards Lin Yi, with Lin Yi around, Meng Yao wouldn't be at a disadvantage. So, this was Yushu's last resort. Someone had to accompany Meng Yao after she left, or else Meng Yao would be sad. After Lin Yi finished cooking, he realized that Han Jingjing and Yushu were chatting passionately about Big Wolf and Red Wolf. This made Lin Yi's eyes flash. Han Jingjing, have you seen Happy Goat and Big Wolf before? Every time Lin Yi went to look for her, she was always calculating something. He didn't see her watching TV at all. It was strange that she was chatting passionately with Yushu now. However, Meng Yao didn't really participate in the discussion. She wasn't a talkative person. She only interjected once in a while. "Time to eat," Lin Yi said. Yay. Shu loves Shield Bros cooking the most. Every meal is one less meal, Yushu said as she stood up and ran towards the dining room. Eating one meal less, but Yushu's words made Lin Yi's heart sink. He had a bad feeling about this. He couldn't help but remember Shu's strange behavior that night. Although Shu said that she had taken care of everything, Lin Yi still felt uneasy. Jing, don't laugh at me. Shu's always like that, acting crazy all the time. Meng Yao shrugged helplessly as she explained to Han Jingjing. It's fine. Han Jingjing shook her head as a trace of confusion flashed in her eyes. She looked at Yushu thoughtfully before pulling a chair over and sitting beside her. How could Han Jingjing not sense Yushu's goodwill? But Han Jingjing didn't understand why Yushu would do that. Yushu's attitude towards her had been good, but she hadn't taken the initiative to get close to her. They were just good friends who were classmates and neighbors. Yushu's tone and actions today, however, were clearly different. How could Han Jingjing not be surprised? Lin Yi had been cooking in the kitchen and didn't have the habit of eavesdropping. Naturally, he didn't know what the three of them were talking about. Big brother Lin Yi, why is your cooking so good? Jingjing wouldn't be able to cook something this good. Han Jingjing's words were subconsciously elevating Lin Yi's status. Hee. Jingjing, do you want to eat it all the time? Actually, you can move in too, Yushu said with a smile. This villa is big. One more person won't make much of a difference. Lin Yi frowned, but didn't say anything. He didn't say anything, but Ming Yao, on the other hand, looked at Yushu oddly. Yushu rarely invited her love rivals to stay in the villa, and although she'd accepted Tang Yun, Xiao Xiao, and Xin Yan, she seemed to have accepted Han Jingjing all of a sudden. Ming Yao was surprised. Thanks, but my brother's at home. It's not good to leave him alone. Han Jingjing didn't agree immediately. This outcome surprised Yushu. Yushu was a little surprised. Xin Yan probably had her own reasons, but Han Jingjing didn't seem to have any such concerns. What was the reason then? The atmosphere during the meal was pretty good, but everyone had their own thoughts. Han Jingjing went back to rest. Ming Yao and Yushu went upstairs, and Lin Yi went back to his room to practice the art of dragon mastery. The days went on as usual. She didn't do anything weird, but Lin Yi could tell that something was up from how she was trying her best to get Han Jingjing closer. But Lin Yi didn't stop her. Han Jingjing had long since been listed as one of Lin Yi's trustworthy people. She knew a lot of Lin Yi's secrets, and Lin Yi knew some of hers as well. The two of them worked together seamlessly, and naturally, Lin Yi wanted Meng Yao and Yushu to have a good relationship with her. Right Coiling Tiger and Kong Xiaolong seemed to have become a lot more depressed. Ever since the winter outing, the two of them didn't hang around Lin Yi, Xin Yan, and Han Jingjing anymore. They went to class after class, ate, and left. Although Coiling Tiger wanted to continue interacting with Han Jingjing, he was afraid of Lin Yi's methods. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. When Coiling Tiger returned home and saw with his own eyes the Earth-class late phase peak master killed by Lin Yi and the Sky-class early phase master injured by Lin Yi, Coiling Tiger fell silent. It was too easy for Lin Yi to kill him, and the only reason why he didn't was because they were classmates. Right Coiling Tiger didn't think that Lin Yi was afraid of him. Before House Yu carried the banner of the Sky Elixir sect, he believed that Lin Yi wasn't afraid of the hidden House Yu. This could be seen from the fact that Lin Yi didn't show any mercy. But although the hidden House Yu had the Sky Elixir sect as their backer, it was just a backer. Your backer was to deter your opponents, not to be your fighters. If someone suffered a loss, the Heavenly Elixir School would not intervene unless it was a great loss that would affect the interests of the school. Otherwise, the Heavenly Elixir School would not come to the secular world at will because of the death of a few of their disciples. Not to mention the restrictions of the other ancient sects. Even the place behind the Sky Elixir sect wouldn't allow them to go out and cause trouble at this critical moment. The opportunity to go to Sky Class Island was obviously too much for them. Everyone wanted to get a piece of the pie. Which Sky Class late phase peak master didn't want to go one step further? Not to mention them, even the Sky Class late phase masters didn't want to let go of this opportunity. Although the ancient sect had agreed a long time ago that the final list of people to go to Sky Class Island would be decided at the Sky Class meeting, in order to be fair, they would follow the previous agreement and give some chances to the hidden houses, small sects, and lone practitioners. At that time, there were special conditions for this opportunity. But even so, even if there were some conditions, the competition was still in full swing. None of the ancient sects wanted to let go of this opportunity. Think about it, which Sky Class late phase peak master would give up so easily. So at this time, any sect that sent out a problem would become the target of public criticism. Although the Sky Elixir sect was powerful and overbearing, they didn't dare to violate the hard and fast rules of the agreement. Chapter 2476 _School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading Chapter 2476 1 Meal Less, 1 Meal Less. Chapter 2471. Meeting Yang Chi-Chi again. Ancient sects didn't meddle in the affairs of the common world. This was a rule that had been agreed upon for many years. As a result, all the ancient sects liked to use hidden houses as their spokespersons, not common houses or people from the common world. They were afraid of being accused of meddling in the common world. However, Pan Hu and Xiaolong's depression, in Lin Yi's eyes, was only temporary. Once this period passed, they'd jump out again. In truth, Lin Yi really didn't know what to do with them. With Boss Bai's rules, Lin Yi couldn't do anything to his classmates. He just hoped that they wouldn't cross the line. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the practitioner's market. Han Xiaopa drove to Lin Yi's villa early in the morning. It didn't take long to get to the practitioner's market, and Lin Yi didn't have to do much. He just had Qintian come back and take over as his bodyguard, taking Meng Yao, Yu Shu, Han Jingjing, and Han Xiaoqiao to school. As for the hidden house Pai, they were just staying here temporarily. Now that things were over, Elder Pai brought Pai Jishan and Pai Jihai back to the hidden house. Although the hidden house Yu and house Yu had tested them, and the hidden house council only existed in name, the hidden house Pai still didn't dare stay in the common world for long. Even if Lin Yi was strong, the founder of the hidden house council was even stronger. Boss, let's go. Did you bring everything? Han Xiaopa asked as he got off the car. Yeah, that's all. Lin Yi pointed at his backpack. Lin Yi didn't have much on him, other than the things he won from the hidden house summit. Lin Yi still had some pills Han Jingjing made. The most valuable thing he had was the ice crystal turtle spit he got from the lake in the valley, but Lin Yi didn't know how much it was worth. From how much the sky-class turtle valued it, it must be very valuable. Then let's go. Han Xiaopa nodded and gestured for Lin Yi to get in the car. Elephant Heart Mountain was located between East Ocean City and Songshan City. That was because it was surrounded by mountains. Mount Elephant Heart was one of them. However, Mount Elephant Heart was very remote, and there were no tourist attractions on the mountain, so it was rarely visited. When Han Xiaopa arrived at the foot of Elephant Heart Mountain, he found that it was very crowded. In an open space at the foot of the mountain, luxury cars gathered. There were Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Land Rovers, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and other top luxury cars. There were also many sports cars. This situation made Lin Yi secretly click his tongue. It seemed that these cultivators were very rich. On the other hand, Han Xiaopa was driving a Mercedes-Benz, which was considered ordinary here. However, these luxury cars did not have license plates. Instead, it was replaced by a special pass that was stuck on the original license plate. Han Xiaopa's car was naturally stuck on it before going up the mountain. It represented the cars that came to participate in the cultivator market. It was also to prevent cars that didn't know the truth from affecting the privacy and normal transactions of the market. Han Xiaopa seemed to have noticed Lin Yi's surprise, so he smiled and said, "How can there be poor cultivators? Even these guest elders and disciples are affiliated with the hidden families and sects, so they have a lot of money every month. As for those independent cultivators, they are basically the guards of some rich bosses, and their treatment is not bad." I see. Lin Yi nodded and put on the masks with Han Xiaopa. Then, they got out of the car together. People who came to participate in the cultivators' market square would usually mask their faces or disguise themselves. This was a custom that had been formed in the cultivators' market for many years. It wasn't a requirement of the market square's organizers, but these people who participated in the cultivators' market were afraid of showing their true faces to others. After the transaction, there would be people robbing them. After all, everyone who came here was to trade treasures. If someone targeted them, there would be endless trouble. This was also to keep their identity secret. Of course, there were some who thought highly of themselves, such as Earth-class late-phase peak and Sky-class early-phase experts, but they didn't wear masks. These people's strength was there for all to see, and they were usually the top figures in this kind of small market. Naturally, they weren't afraid of people having any ideas about them. As for cultivators of higher levels, they might not be interested in the things that these Earth-rank cultivators were trading. Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa's appearance didn't attract much attention, because the two were too ordinary. The car they drove was low-key, and the masks made it hard to tell who was who. On the other hand, Lin looked at the cultivators who came to participate in the market. Most of them were Mystic Class and Earth Class early phase masters. As for Earth Class late phase masters and above, there weren't many. Sky Class Lin, you didn't see any of these people. Lin was still wearing the male thief's mask, but under it was a layer of the 1,000 silk mask that the Sky Class spider gave him. The purpose of this was double insurance. In case the mask fell off, his identity wouldn't be exposed. There were all sorts of people in this practitioner market, and Lin didn't want too much attention on him. After getting off the car, Lin followed Han Xiaopa to the foot of the mountain. It didn't take long before they saw a group of people gathered around to watch the show. Lin wasn't a person who liked to watch crowds. He glanced at them faintly and wanted to go around them. But Han Xiaopa said, "Boss, let's go take a look. Maybe there's something good." Lin Yi's footsteps paused for a moment, but he nodded. Han Xiaopa was right. Usually, Lin wouldn't go watch the show. But here, if Han Xiaopa said there was something good, then it might be true. And so, Lin Yi decided to go with Han Xiaopa. But when Lin Yi's eyes fell on the two people in the center of the scene, he couldn't help but frown. One of them was someone Lin didn't know or care about, but the other one was someone Lin had a deep impression of. Wasn't that Yang Qiqi? Qiqi was wearing a black mask, but that black leather jacket and pants, and that cold, murderous expression. Lin recognized her right away. Naturally, Lin had a deep impression of someone he was familiar with, especially this Yang Qiqi. Whether it was that time in Songshan, or the time in Blue Town, or even the time in the Ice Palace test, she had left a deep impression on Lin Yi. Others might not be able to recognize her, but Lin Yi could with one look. And this cool girl seemed to be a punching bag. Chapter 2477, The Campus Belle's Bodyguard, is free to read. Meet Yang Qiqi update complete. Chapter 2472. She'd been bullied in the Ice Palace test, and now she was being bullied here as well. Looking at her, it seemed like she'd been taken advantage of. She wasn't hurt, but she was panting heavily. The other person was a skinny man with a green mask on. He was an Earth Class early phase. He was looking at Qiqi arrogantly. "Girl, if you know what's good for you, hand it over. We'll trade fairly. Don't be so shameless." "You put it nicely, fair trade. Let's not talk about whether or not what you're trading is worth as much as mine. I don't want to trade with you. And you want to force me to sell? Do you really think you're the only one in this market?" Qiqi glared at the skinny man. "You've gone too far. Girl, you don't understand the situation, do you? Of course, you can't force someone to buy or sell in the market. But outside the market, fists do the talking." The skinny man chuckled, not caring at all about Qiqi's anger. He wasn't ashamed, but proud. "If your fists are bigger, you can take my stuff back." "You." Qiqi's chest heaved. She was pissed, but she knew that she wasn't a match for this person. She was a mystic late phase, peak physical practitioner, and this man was an Earth Class early phase, a spiritual practitioner at that. She wasn't a match for him. In fact, Qiqi knew that she wasn't a match for him the moment he tried to steal her stuff. Just one palm strike was enough to make her suffer. An Earth Class that knew how to use their techniques was different. They weren't on the same level as a mystic. Qiqi's forte was lightness kung fu, too. Her level was there, but she wasn't good at fighting. If they were to really fight, Qiqi would definitely be at a disadvantage. This was also why Qiqi didn't dare to make a move, even though she was angry. But no matter how weak Qiqi was, the people watching from the side were just watching, and no one was going to help. They could see that Qiqi was being bullied, but no one wanted to cause trouble at a time like this. Lin Yi frowned and hesitated. Should he help or not? Lin Yi didn't want to cause any trouble. He just wanted to exchange for what he needed. After exchanging, he would leave immediately. He didn't want to complicate matters. Yang Qiqi, on the other hand, was someone Lin Yi was familiar with. She might have bitten the hand that fed her, but Lin Yi had seen her body, and they'd worked together back in the Ice Palace trial. Just as Lin Yi was hesitating, the skinny man spoke again. "What are you all looking at? All of you disperse for this daddy. Do you still want to stand up for this girl?" As soon as the skinny man spoke, the onlookers subconsciously took 2 steps back. Obviously, this skinny man had some power. Although his face was covered, there were definitely people who recognized him. Or rather, he was a tyrant in the market, doing things like this all the time. It was just that most people didn't dare say anything about it. Those who got bullied were usually pushovers, and no one would stand up for them, even if they got bullied. The stronger practitioners didn't care about this sort of thing, either. It was a very normal thing in the world of practitioners. Chi-Chi gritted her teeth, almost crying. It hadn't been easy for her to find out the location of the market. She'd signed up and brought her treasures to trade for some medicine to keep little Gio's sickness. She didn't think that her treasures would be taken away before she even entered the market. It was her fault for being inexperienced. She was afraid that she'd lose out later on. So she'd taken her treasures out for others to evaluate before entering the market. That was how the skinny man had his eyes on her. Chi-Chi didn't think that the market would be this chaotic. She'd heard that the market was fair and just, and people could reject if they didn't want to trade. Who knew that this would happen before they even entered the market? Then where's the thing you wanted to trade with me? Chi-Chi saw that no one was speaking up for her, and that most of the people had left after the skinny man's shout. She knew that she'd be at a disadvantage this time. She could only go for the next best thing. Oh, this is a second-level pill. A small chi gathering pill. Seeing that you're a mystic late phase peak, it'll help you level up to Earth class. The skinny man took out a small box from his pocket and handed it to Chi-Chi. How is it? Fair, right? Chi-Chi felt wronged, but there was nothing she could do. My blue crystal is worth more than a small chi gathering pill, right? In actuality, a second-level pill was worth a lot of money. But those who'd seen the whole process knew that Chi-Chi's item was worth even more. The blue crystal, on the other hand, was worth a lot of money. Just like some of the highest quality jade stones, it was a great material for crafting weapons. In this era, blacksmiths had already disappeared. Fortunately, there were still some divine weapons passed down from ancient times. However, these divine weapons might not be the most suitable divine weapons. Divine weapons were also divided into the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. For cultivators who cultivated in the gold element cultivation method, it was best to use the gold element divine weapons. If they used the water element divine weapons, they would naturally not be able to achieve the best effect. However, cultivators often couldn't decide the attributes of the divine weapons in their hands. It was already not easy to obtain a divine weapon, so how could they be picky? Where would you find the right attribute for a weapon to choose from? As a result, it was time to modify the weapon. The modification method was to use the essence blood of a sky-class spirit beast or a part of its body, and put it into the furnace with the weapon. This would change the weapon's attribute. Chapter 2473. Everyone knew that only a sky class could imbue chi into a weapon of the same element to maximize its power. Earth classes, on the other hand, couldn't imbue chi into their weapons, and so it was better not to use it in a fight. It was a burden, not as practical as a skill. However, there were also exceptions. For example, this godly weapon had a large amount of blue crystals added during the tempering process. After the tempering process was successful, an Earth rank expert could instill Zhenqi into it. However, the amount of Zhenqi instilled depended on the amount of blue crystals added. Chi-Chi only had a small piece of blue crystal in her hand, and it really wasn't enough for anything, but it was still priceless. It was something an Earth class couldn't get their hands on. Normally speaking, it was a very difficult process for an Earth class to break through to Sky class, and so the Earth class kept collecting them. Perhaps they would be able to enjoy the power of a weapon before breaking through. Blue crystal? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He didn't think that Chi-Chi would have something like this. This surprised Lin Yi. He didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business, but now he changed his mind. Lin Yi didn't really care if Chi-Chi got hurt or not, but this blue crystal was something Lin Yi had to get. So, you don't want the small chi gathering pill anymore? The skinny man took back the small chi gathering pill and put it back in his pocket. It was only now that everyone realized that this skinny man didn't even want to give up the pill. He was robbing them. But even if it was an open robbery, they wouldn't say anything. After all, it wasn't their belongings and it didn't matter. Chi-Chi's tears were welling up in her eyes. She wasn't a spiritual practitioner, and she couldn't break through to Earth class even if she wanted the pill. Exchanging the blue crystal for the pill was a big loss, but not giving it up was an even bigger loss. And so Chi-Chi nodded, depressed. I want it. You want it? Too late. The skinny man chuckled. I didn't want it before, but I'm not giving it up now. Give it to her. Lin really couldn't stand it anymore. Lin also knew how to bully people, but Lin always bullied people who had a grudge against him. Lin would never do such a thing if there was no enmity between them. The skinny man in front of him was a perfect example of going too far. Who are you? The skinny man did not expect that there would be someone who would meddle in other people's business. It was not the first time he had done this kind of thing, but it was the first time someone stood up for him. But he wasn't afraid. Revealing his Earth-class strength, he sneered at Lin. Are you sure you want to stand up for her? From the skinny hemp pole's perspective, Lin was a hothead. As long as he revealed his strength, Lin would definitely get lost obediently. But what he didn't expect was that Lin wasn't affected at all. He took out the pill box from his pocket and threw it to Chi-Chi. Take it. Don't trade with people like this next time. Oh, Chi-Chi was a little displeased. Why didn't Lin take her blue crystal back? Why was he giving it to her instead? Why was this guy like this not helping her to the end? Half of it. But still, Lin did help. Chi-Chi had no choice but to accept it. Thank you. The skinny man frowned when he saw that his aura didn't work. But after some hesitation, he gave up on asking for the pill. He turned to Lin. All right, you're done here. I'm leaving. Whose father are you? Lin frowned and humphed coldly. I'm warning you, kid, don't meddle in other people's business. I'm not just one person. The skinny man could guess that Lin was an Earth class. After all, his aura didn't affect Lin at all. But he wasn't afraid, either. He was one of the three brothers, and all three of them were Earth class. They had powerful backgrounds as well. This was why he wasn't afraid. Be careful. You won't be able to enter the market. According to your theory, the one with the harder fist is the boss, right? Lin said with a smile on the skinny guy's face. Good that you know. The skinny man didn't hear the mockery in Lin Yi's tone. He nodded as if it was a matter of course. Others might not know, but the skinny man knew his own family. The three brothers were the three disciples of the vice chairman of the Cultivator Trading Association. The eldest and second brother were in charge of checking the qualifications of the cultivators market. If Lin were to really cause trouble, he'd just have to tell his eldest and second brother, and Lin wouldn't even be able to enter the market. Oh, if that's the case, I have a soul-gathering pill here. Lin took out a small bottle from his backpack and handed it to the skinny man. This is a first-level pill. It's good enough for you. I'll use this to exchange for the blue crystal. The skinny man was stunned, but then he laughed. Ha ha ha, kid. Are you sure you're not joking? You're the funniest person I've ever seen. But the skinny guy didn't even get to finish before Lin slapped him across the face. Slap. Half of the guy's face swelled up. You hit me? The skinny man didn't expect Lin to suddenly attack without any warning. Usually, in a conflict like this, both sides would first say a few words to show off, and then they'd start fighting. It wasn't like there was any deep hatred between them. So who would attack without even knowing each other? So the skinny man didn't use his pure chi to protect his body. His face swelled up, and he gritted his teeth in anger. He wanted to attack, but Lin suddenly released the aura of an Earth-class mid-phase peak. The skinny man's expression turned ugly. Earth-class mid-phase peak. Deal or no deal? Chapter 2474. Chi-Chi frowned as she watched Lin put the crystal away. This guy really wasn't a good person, after all. He didn't really want to help her. He just wanted to use this as an excuse to take the crystal for himself. Chi-Chi frowned as she watched Lin put the crystal away. And this guy was even more tyrannical. using a first-level pill to trade for the blue crystal. That skinny guy was losing out big time. But Chi-Chi knew that if she asked Lin E for the blue crystal now, she'd be asking for it. So, after some hesitation, she came up with a good idea. She calmed herself down and pretended to be very grateful as she walked over to Lin E. Warrior, thank you. Lin E looked at Chi-Chi oddly. Warrior? Ugh. Chi-Chi paused as well. She didn't have much experience in the Jianghu, and she grew up in a foreign country. Her knowledge of the Jianghu was limited to those wuxia movies and TV dramas. She didn't know how to address Lin E, but warrior didn't seem right. That's a warrior. Lin E was speechless. Where did this cool girl learn all these weird terms? Thank you for helping out just now. Chi-Chi realized that the terms she'd learned in the Jianghu weren't quite right, so she decided to just say it. Oh, it's nothing, Lin E said faintly as he looked at Chi-Chi. As for Chi-Chi thanking him, Lin E didn't believe that. He'd taken the blue crystal from this girl, and not only did she not dare ask for it back, she was even trying to get close to him. This wasn't Chi-Chi's personality at all. Naturally, Lin E didn't believe that Chi-Chi was really thanking him. In fact, anyone could tell that Lin E had only helped her out of convenience. His true goal was still the blue crystal, but he'd taken it from the skinny guy legitimately. Boss, they're about to enter. Shall we go? Han Xiaopa reminded Lin E. In a place like this, it was best not to interact too much with strangers. After all, there was no knowing what was in a person's heart. Who knew if it would bring unnecessary trouble? All right, we'll part ways here then, Mississippi Lin E said with a smile. I'll wait. Young Chi-Chi didn't want Lin E to leave just like that. How was she supposed to get her blue crystal back if Lin E left? So Chi-Chi quickly stopped Lin E. Is there anything else? Lin E asked. The people here are dangerous, and I've just entered the Jianghu. I wonder if you could help me out and let me go with you? Chi-Chi heard Lin E call her a heroine, so she started calling Lin E a swordsman. In fact, this was also how the world addressed each other. It was just that it was not commonly used. Is that so? All right then. Lin E nodded and agreed. In truth, this was young Chi-Chi. If it were someone else, Lin E wouldn't have agreed so readily. Han Xiaopa frowned. He wanted to remind Lin E to reject the offer, but decided against it. Lin E was the boss, after all. He had his own plans, and so Han Xiaopa didn't say anything more. Thank you. Chi-Chi was overjoyed. As long as he said yes, she'd work hard to get the blue crystal back. That was something she needed to exchange for Little Nine's life. She couldn't let Lin E take it no matter what. A second-level pill was valuable, but it was far less valuable than the blue crystal. 10 second-level pills might not even be enough to exchange for a small piece of blue crystal. Chi-Chi was looking for the ultimate treasure, and so she had to get it back. Otherwise, she'd have to go back empty-handed. Plus, according to the information, the treasure that could sustain Little Nine's life did exist in this market. The three walked together, but Lin E noticed that the people around them were keeping a respectful distance from them. The strength that Lin E had shown just now was above average, and in the eyes of most of the mystics, he was an unreachable existence. Especially since Lin E had been so domineering, bullying that skinny guy until he didn't dare say a word. As a result, most people thought of Lin E as a dangerous person, a troublemaker. They walked quickly to the foot of the mountain, and there was a checkpoint. It seemed that this was the place to verify one's identity. Lin E couldn't help but think of the scene in the Wulong Haut Mountains. Take out the invitation letter. Hey kid, is this invitation letter yours? You're just a golden class late phase peak. Is this a place for a scumbag like you to come to? The younger of the two guards grabbed a skinny man who was at the peak late phase of the golden class. Big brothers, this invitation is real. I signed up through the trade association. Masters at the peak of the late phase of the golden class were quite powerful in the common world, but here they were at the bottom of the food chain, so they had to be careful. It wasn't strange that Lin E could see through this person's strength, since Lin E had a golden finger. But these two guards didn't have one, and it was quite unbelievable that they could see through the golden class late phase peak strength without using any incantations or skills. Really? Even if the invitation is real, Who knows where you got it from? You might have picked it up from a dead body. The older man raised an eyebrow and said coldly, "All right, if there's nothing else, then get out of here." The master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class suddenly felt helpless. He gritted his teeth, took out a small box from his bag, and handed it over along with the invitation. Big brothers, this invitation was indeed picked up from a dead man, but he also had this thing on him. Since that man is dead, this thing should also belong to the Returnees Trading Association, so I'll hand it over. Let me see. The young man smiled when he saw that the golden class late phase peak was so obedient, and he took the small box and opened it. It was a first-level medicinal pill, and he nodded. "Not bad. Since you didn't keep the money you picked up, please come in." "Thank you, big brothers." The young man, who was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class, quickly walked into the market. He had been carefully observing the two guards, and it was obvious that they were looking for trouble, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. This kind of situation made very disdainful. Chapter 2475. It was obvious that they were asking for bribes, but they did it openly. The organizer of this market was probably not a good person. Without the approval and connivance of the higher-ups, they wouldn't dare to do this. According to Lin Yi's observation, as long as one's strength was slightly lower, they would be more or less harassed. There were all sorts of reasons. Even the reason of being disheveled was used. Of course, there were a few who were lucky enough to escape. However, these people dared not say anything and obediently paid the bribe before they were allowed to enter the market. But for those of higher levels, such as those of Earth rank and above, they were not harassed. After looking at the invitation, they were allowed to pass. It seemed that these people were the type to bully the weak and fear the strong. "Get out of the way, get out of the way, let my grandfather go first." Just as Lin Yi and the others followed the people in front of them to the entrance, an angry shout came from behind them. Then a luxuriously dressed young man strode over, pushing the people on both sides of him aside. The young man didn't wear a mask, and the short old man behind him didn't wear a mask either. The two of them, one in front and one behind, walked briskly towards them, not putting anyone in their eyes at all. This young man's strength was not high. Lin took a look and saw that he was only at the peak of early Earth rank. However, the old man behind him was not simple. He was actually a heaven rank early stage master. However, what made Lin a little surprised was that this heaven rank master was the one sent by the hidden house of you to block the road and was injured by Lin Yi. This guy's injury was already healed. But thinking about it, he was a guest of the hidden house of you, and the hidden house of you is an alchemy family. Naturally, they had plenty of pills. They might not have enough for people like Udake, but for heaven-rank masters, they would definitely have enough. After all, heaven-rank masters were very rare for the hidden houses. The short old man did not hide his heaven-rank aura at all. In fact, he should have done it on purpose to highlight his abnormality. Although there were some Earth-class mid and Earth-class late-stage masters who were pushed away by the young man, they all obediently moved to the side and kept quiet. Their fear of a Sky-class master came from the bottom of their hearts. However, Lin Yi didn't dodge. He was very calm. When the young man walked over, Lin Yi just dodged the young man's hand. With regards to Lin Yi's evasion, the young man seemed to be very annoyed. He coldly snorted and glared at Lin Yi. However, because his grandfather was behind him, he didn't have the time to argue with Lin Yi. However, he had already memorized the appearance of Lin Yi's mask in his heart. He was ready to find an opportunity to deal with Lin Yi after entering the market. When the two guards saw a heaven stage expert walking over, they immediately smiled and welcomed him respectfully. "Please come in, please come in." The short expert snorted, then quickly walked into the market with the young man. The two guards didn't even check their invitation, but Sky-class masters were very qualified to enter a low-end market like this. Even if they didn't have an invitation, they wouldn't stop them. Yang Qiqi saw this and couldn't help but snort. They really bullied the weak and feared the strong. These two guards were exactly the same as the skinny man who robbed her before. They were practically a family. But what Chi-Chi didn't know was that she was right. These three really were a family of three brothers. The short expert entering the market didn't have any effect on the others. It seemed that most people were already used to it and felt that heaven-rank experts should have such extravagance. The two guards also returned to their despicable appearance and continued to bully the soft persimmon. When it was Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Yang Chi-Chi's turn, Lin Yi thought that after the two showed their invitation, they'd be able to pass without a hitch. What he didn't expect was for the two guards to stop them. "You have a nice body, aren't you? Pretty hot. Which sector are you from? Is the invitation real?" The young guard looked at Yang Chi-Chi and asked in a flirtatious tone. "I'm a freelancer," Yang Chi-Chi said. "Outer sect freelancer? That's rare, isn't it?" The older guard chimed in as well. "You don't look like a good person to me. I suspect that you're hiding something dangerous on you. Take off your clothes and let us search you." "You." Yang Chi-Chi's face went red with anger at the two's shameless words. Her face was covered by the black mask, but one could still see the flames of anger in her eyes. "This is a legitimate invitation from the trade association. I paid the deposit. How could it be fake?" "Heh, us brothers have been guarding the door for so many years. You think we can't tell if it's real or fake? If we say it's fake, then it's fake. Don't waste your breath. Search us or get the hell out of here," the young guard said with a cold smile. "Then what's wrong with our invitation?" Han Xiaopa was also a little annoyed. Although these two guards liked to bully the weak, they still knew how to read the situation. They knew to bully the Golden and Mystic class masters. As for the Earth class masters, they would let them pass without exception. As for the Heaven class masters, they would even greet them respectfully. But it was Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa who were in trouble. Naturally, Han Xiaopa was a little annoyed. "We're Earth class. We have an invitation. We know you're Earth class. One early phase, one mid-phase peak," the older guard said coldly. "We're not blind. We can tell." As the old guard spoke, Lin Yi finally understood. The old guard had a strange compass in his hand, and it was probably because of this compass that they were able to see through a person's strength. Lin Yi didn't have any intention of meddling in their business, but now that the matter had fallen onto his head, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't let them get away with it. He looked at the two in front of him and said coldly, "If you're not blind, then let us pass. Otherwise, I don't mind turning you into a real blind man." "How dare you?" The young guard was furious after hearing Lin Yi's words. "A mere Earth class mid-phase peak, and you dare yell in front of me? Do you want to die? Your invitation is fake. I'm confiscating it. You can get the hell out of here." As he spoke, the young guard picked up the invitation letter and tore it into pieces, throwing it in the air. The wind blew the pieces away, and they scattered in all directions. Chapter 2476. Vice leader from Lin Yi's strength was no longer the same as before. It was different from when he fought against the third elder at the Red Conch headquarters. Now, if he were to face an Earth-class late-phase peak, as long as it wasn't too much of a freak, he could easily kill them. Of course, the Taggin Dragon was a special exception. Before, when Lin Yi defeated an Earth-class late-phase expert, it was still understandable. It could be explained by Lin Yi's exquisite martial arts. But now, besides Han Xiaopa, no one else was optimistic about Lin Yi's chances of winning. An Earth-class late-phase peak. What kind of concept was that? That was a half-step sky-class expert, and his Earth-class martial arts had been trained to the limit. He could use the 10th form, but Lin Yi could only use the 6th form. The result of this collision was obvious. Moreover, in the eyes of most people, although Lin Yi was standing there without moving, the young guard was already injured to that extent. How could Lin Yi not be injured at all? Even if he was standing there, he must have suffered some serious internal injuries. This was inevitable. The more Lin Yi fought, the more serious his injuries would be. After all, he was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, not a Sky-class. Not to mention Lin Yi's strength, even an Earth-class late-phase peak would be heavily injured if they went head-to-head with an Earth-class late-phase peak. Not to mention that Lin Yi wasn't even an Earth-class late-phase peak. However, Just as everyone was thinking that Lin Yi's next move would be a bloody mess, they were all disappointed. The Elder Guard was once again sent flying by Lin Yi's attack, falling right beside the young guard. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. He seemed to be in an even worse state than the young guard from before. Beep, 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 beep. In addition to the 2 guards at the entrance of the market, there were also a number of workers here. However, these workers weren't Earth-class masters, they were just ordinary Golden-class disciples. At this time, they saw the 2 guards being beheaded by Lin Yi. He was so frightened that he hurriedly pressed the emergency alarm and called for the experts in the market square to come and help. Everyone else looked at Lin Yi with fear and shock in their eyes, backing away subconsciously, not daring to get too close to Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Chi-Chi. They were afraid that Lin Yi would vent his anger on them, and they were also afraid that the people from the Cultivator Trade Association would come out and treat them as Lin Yi's accomplices. "What are you guys doing?" Lin Yi looked at the staff. He asked coldly. The Golden-class late phase peak master who rang the alarm paled upon hearing Lin Yi's question. He wanted to run, but he didn't dare. There was no way he could run in front of an Earth-class mid-phase peak. Plus, this was a special master who could easily kill an Earth-class late-phase peak. Therefore, he was so scared that his forehead was covered in cold sweat. After a while, he stammered, "Senior, you killed someone here. We can only inform the people in the cultivators' market." "Oh, that's good." Lin Yi nodded. "This will have to be dealt with eventually. Thank you for your understanding, Senior." The Golden-class late-phase peak forced a smile as if relieved of a heavy burden. He looked at Lin Yi gratefully. Lin Yi didn't move. He just stood there with his hands behind his back. These 2 guards were domineering. Although the 2 guards were domineering, Lin Yi didn't believe that the big shots of the Cultivator Trade Association would be so domineering. Even if these 2 people were their disciples and their behavior was tacitly approved by them, at least in public, they couldn't support such a blatant act of blocking cultivators from entering the market and looking for trouble to bribe them. Of course, there was the possibility of backstabbing or looking for trouble, but they definitely wouldn't fall out with Lin Yi right there and then. If that happened, it would be the same as disappointing the hearts of all cultivators. Originally, a high deposit had been paid for the entrance invitation, and this deposit was not refundable. If they had to pay a tribute when entering, it would be a little hard to say. If it was the personal actions of the 2 guards, it would be understandable. But if the Cultivator Trade Association openly supported this kind of unhealthy practice, then it would be a little unreasonable. "Who dares to cause trouble here?" A cold voice suddenly sounded. An old man surrounded by 2 disciples walked quickly towards Lin Yi's side. He walked quickly towards Lin Yi's direction, his face changing as he saw the 2 guards on the ground. "How dare you? You dare to kill people from the Cultivator Trade Association, Law Enforcement Hall disciples. Take him down." "Yes." The 2 disciples immediately cupped their fists and replied. Then they rushed towards Lin Yi. This old man was a peak early heaven-class master, and the 2 so-called Law Enforcement Hall disciples behind him were peak late Earth-class masters. This lineup was not small, but against Lin Yi, it was really not enough. Once upon a time, the peak late Earth-class and the peak early heaven-class masters were existences that Lin Yi looked up to. Back in the Wulong Haut Mountains, Lin Yi also had no chance of winning, but with the passage of time, Lin Yi didn't feel any pressure standing here. Even if he fought head-on, he was confident that he could make this peak early heaven-class master stay. "Old thing, you're not distinguishing between right and wrong, are you?" Lin Yi laughed coldly as he watched the 2 peak late Earth-class disciples walk over. "Look at the strength of those 2 on the ground, then think about whether or not you can take me down." The 2 Law Enforcement Hall disciples stopped in their tracks, their expressions changing. Before, they only saw that Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak master, and they didn't think too much about it because they were Earth-class late-phase peak masters. But now that Lin Yi reminded them, they knew that something was wrong. The 2 people on the ground were Earth-class late-phase peak, and one was Earth-class late-phase peak, and both of them were killed by Lin Yi. The two Earth-class late-phase peak disciples of the Hall of Law Enforcement weren't enough. Brat, are you threatening us? The peak early heaven-class old man frowned and snorted, killing people here, and you think you're in the right. Why don't you first ask why I killed those two guards, and who made the first move? Do you think that the Cultivators Trade Association can be unreasonable? Lin E smiled coldly as he retorted, you guys can protect your own people, but you have to be reasonable. Ask the disciple who sent you the alarm. How did this happen? As Lin E said that, he looked at the golden class disciple who alerted him. Chapter 2483_School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading Chapter 2483 Vice Chairman Update Complete. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.